treats you the best. Tells you that he will go to the military school for further training after finishing his time in the new recruit company. You would be overjoyed. Only to later receive news that he was seriously injured and might have to retire. Anyone would feel terrible about it. Moreover, the details of that operation were completely confidential. So, over here in the Steel Knife Company, they had no idea how Zhao Pengfei got injured. They only knew that it happened during a training exercise and nothing more. Additionally, Zhao Pengfei had previously instructed them to look out for Qin Feng. Thus, Wu Jin naturally believed that Zhao Pengfei's current condition must be closely related to Qin Feng. In fact, this incident was indeed closely related to Qin Feng because Zhao Pengfei had taken a bullet for him, which led to his current state. Therefore, from Wu Jin's perspective, as well as the discipline between superiors and subordinates in the military, Qin Feng had no reason to be angry, much less to speak back. Wasn't he just being mocked and having to clean? What is the big deal? If you're working in society and your boss scolds you a bit, do you just stop working and stop earning money? A mature man should learn to adjust his emotions. If he scolds you and you ignore him, in the end, only the boss will be left frustrated. This was a valuable lesson Qin Feng learned from years of hard work in his previous life. Qin Feng, we're all on the same side here, and there are no outsiders. Can you give us the inside scoop on how the squad leader got injured? We heard that the squad leader almost didn't team make it and was saved just in time. I saw some news online before. Didn't the squad leader fall from a mountain during a rescue operation, which is why he ended up like this? People were chattering endlessly. But Qin Feng's response was only a firm no comment. Since it involved foreign drug trafficking forces, the information was tightly controlled. Aside from a few individuals involved, there was also a special operations team led by Yuan Feng. Even the armed police and special police who were there for the rescue at the time did not have a clear understanding of the whole situation. Disclosing details of the operation was considered a serious violation of discipline, and it was essential to distinguish between what was important and what was not. Seeing that they couldn't get any answers from Qin Feng, everyone simply gave up. However, they still comforted him to take it easy and not to take it to heart. They also told him that Wu Jin was actually a decent guy with a warm heart. After spending more time together, any misunderstandings would be resolved. Qin Feng nodded and truly didn't take it to heart. A straightforward person who wears their personality on their face can't have any bad intentions, right? However, Qin Feng was a bit curious at the moment. He wondered if the team leader could adapt to the role of the logistics officer and what old Zhao was busy with right now. In the kitchen, pots and pans were flying around. A group of veteran cooks was working enthusiastically. At the back door, Zhao Pengfei struggled to bring in a bag of oranges. He wanted to put the oranges on the table, but his hands were too weak to lift them. Team leader, take it easy, I'll help you. Wu Jin hurried over to assist when he saw this. Wu Jin, what brings you here? Zhao Pengfei looked at him with some surprise. Hee. Just came to take a look and see how you're adapting, Wu Jin replied. What is there to adapt to? Just keeping accounts, checking the list, and lending a hand. As long as you have hands and feet, you can do it, Zhao Pengfei said as he walked to the side and patted Chen Sanqi, who was crouched down peeling radishes. Chen Sanqi, go cut those oranges. They're the fruit for after lunch. Make sure to cut them evenly. Yes, team leader. Remember, don't use the knife and cutting board that were used for garlic. Don't worry, team leader, I know. Chen Sanqi dropped the radish and hurried off to cut the fruit. Zhao Pengfei watched him work efficiently and shook his head helplessly. If he had known this kid had such a skill, he wouldn't have had to work so hard when he first brought him along. He could have just let him be in a more relaxed manner since he was in the cooking team, not the combat team. Come on, let us go chat outside. Zhao Pengfei limped as he walked due to an injury on his leg, and Wu Jin followed behind, feeling increasingly uneasy. How could someone who was fine before going to the recruit company come back like this? How's it going? Have you met that kid? Isn't he pretty good? Zhao Pengfei sat down on a stone bench, took out a pack of cigarettes, and tossed one to Wu Jin. Wu Jin sat down opposite him, tapped the cigarette on the table twice, but didn't he light it? I don't think he is that great. Huh. Zhao Pengfei was about to light his cigarette, but suddenly stopped. Wu Jin frowned and said unhappily, anyway, I really dislike him. Zhao Pengfei raised his eyes to glance at him, but still lit his cigarette. My injury has nothing to do with Qin Feng. Wu Jin supported himself on the stone table, suddenly getting anxious. Squad leader, I usually believe everything you say, but I don't believe for a second that your injury has nothing to do with Qin Feng. I've already tested him since he got here. No matter how I deliberately provoke him or find trouble, he never gets angry. What does that mean if not guilty? He knows I'm one of your soldiers. He can see it at a glance. What is going on here? Is he hiding something and deliberately letting me off the hook? Zhao Pengfei silently smoked a cigarette, forming a stark contrast to Wu Jin's anxious demeanor. The more calm Zhao Pengfei appeared, the more agitated Wu Jin became. Squad leader, just tell me the truth. What exactly happened during the outdoor training? How did you end up getting hurt like this? I've already said, I accidentally fell from a mountain while searching for a missing student, Zhao Pengfei replied. That's nonsense. Wu Jin slammed the table, his face turning red. Anyone can fall from a mountain, but you can't. You're a veteran scout with 10 years of experience. You could lead us through the forest with your eyes closed. How could you possibly fall from a mountain? Zhao Pengfei looked at him helplessly. Wu Jin, when will you change this impulsive nature? Some things are best left as they are. Why do you have to dig deeper? I'm still alive and doing fine. Aren't I? But you stop right there. Zhao Pengfei pointed at him. This matter is not to be mentioned again. And you are not allowed to cause trouble for Qin Feng. While I'm away, you are the squad leader of Class 6. Did Qin Feng provoke you? Why do you have to make things difficult for him? Are you acting like a squad leader or a bandit leader? Squad leader, let me be honest with you. Wu Jin lit a cigarette and said indignantly, even without your involvement, I don't like him. Just seeing him annoys me. And the reason? Zhao Pengfei stared into his eyes. He is just too smart. Too smart? What's wrong with that? Isn't it a good thing? Wu Jin, with the cigarette in his mouth, scratched his head, struggling to express what he felt. Squad leader, it's not the kind of smart we usually talk about, nor is it cleverness. It's more like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like he can look at you and instantly know what you're thinking. You can't hide anything from him. You can't see through him, but he can see right through you, stripping you down completely. Can you understand that feeling? Seeing Wu Jin scratching his ears and feeling uncomfortable. Zhao Pengfei suddenly laughed, genuinely happy. I've spent over 3 months with him, and I feel that way all the time. You've only met him once and can't stand it. How will you manage in the days to come? Chapter 144. Special Treatment, Special Care Squad Leader. What are you laughing at? Seeing Zhao Pengfei chuckle, Wu Jin's face was almost wrinkled with confusion. This isn't even funny. Zhao Pengfei waved his hand. So? You think he is smarter than you, which is why you don't like him. That is not what I mean. You know I'm not a petty person. Then what do you mean? Feeling like you're too dumb to compete with others? It's almost confusing for Wu Jin, as if his vocabulary is barely enough. What I mean is, this person is just too perfect, so smart it feels a bit fake. Like a shell of an 18 or 19-year-old. But with the soul of a middle-aged person and one who has seen a lot of storms. And here's the key point. Who can achieve such great merit during the recruit training period? Is that reasonable? It's utterly unreasonable. You see, when I was a recruit, I worked so hard just to break the grenade throwing record in the regiment, and I only got a commendation for it. All right. Zhao Pengfei raised his hand to stop him, completely uninterested in hearing more. What kind of nonsense is this? Are you trying to write a novel or something? I still have a ton of work to do. I don't have time to listen to your rambling. Saying that, he stood up, preparing to head to the cafeteria. But after taking a couple of steps, he turned back with a serious expression. Remember what I just said, if you dare to cause trouble for Qin Feng again, I'll be the first to find you. Got it. Wu Jin pouted, reluctantly agreeing. In the afternoon, the duty squad leader shouted slogans, leading the small duty teams from various classes towards the cafeteria. Qin Feng noticed that the lineup was almost entirely new recruits, with only 2 veterans present. It seems that the saying about new recruits joining the unit while veterans go home for the new year still holds true. Initially, some tasks were mainly assigned to the new recruits. Of course, this wasn't bullying. It was just to give you a bit more to do so you could adapt to the rhythm of the unit more quickly and effectively. Just like how interns at a company are given more tasks when they first arrive. Soon, everyone arrived at the cafeteria. Compared to the recruit training unit, this cafeteria was more spacious and modern. Round tables had been replaced with long rectangular tables. The dining style was no longer the communal roundtable meals from the recruit unit, but rather a system where meals were served on stainless steel trays. In simple terms, it was like a school cafeteria where everyone eats separately. The purpose of this change was to ensure that combat units wouldn't be affected by food issues, thus maintaining combat effectiveness. However, the small duty tasks remained the same as in the recruit unit, just needing to prepare the meals in advance. Qin Feng picked up his tray and joined the other small duty members in line to get food. I have to say, the food standards here are quite good. The dishes were served buffet style, so you could take whatever you wanted. There were 6 or 7 types of meat dishes, including spicy chicken, roasted duck, pickled fish, and stir-fried beef with cabbage, along with 3 seasonal vegetables. The staple foods were rice and steamed buns, which didn't differ much from before. Qin Feng sighed to himself. No wonder it's an independent unit. The food standards are impressive. Squad leader? Qin Feng looked up, pleasantly surprised to see a familiar face. Although wearing a mask and apron, he recognized who it was at a glance. Zhao Pengfei's eyes curved into crescents as he flashed a smile and made a shushing gesture at him. He gestured for him to get the food first, as there were others waiting behind. They could chat later. Qin Feng acknowledged and quickly started serving the dishes. Although the meal system had changed from communal to individual servings, he still maintained the good habits he had acquired in the new recruits company. When it was his turn to serve, he believed that the meat should be served in proportion to how much could be taken. Typically, the largest empty space at the bottom of the plate would be used for rice. However, Qin Feng thought that was too wasteful and took up too much space. So, he directly used that area to serve vegetables until the plate was full. After all, the staple food could be taken freely, and he could always pour some sauce over the rice later. Watching Qin Feng's actions, Zhao Pengfei couldn't help but smile. Scenes from the new recruits company immediately flashed in his mind. This kid, no matter where he went, always thought of his squad mates. However, this move of his drew discontent from the new recruits in other squads. Who does that guy think he is, being so arrogant? Not only did he pile up so much food, but he also took all the meat. Look at that roasted duck. All that's left are the neck and skin, along with some bean sprouts. Since they had just joined the company and there were veterans around, the new recruits were still hesitant. Only the guy from Squad 6 was bold enough, like an old hand, with a thick skin. Lu Xiaowang, standing behind Qin Feng, watched helplessly as he took all the good parts, and he was so angry he almost cursed. He didn't care whether Qin Feng was the son of some high-ranking official. He picked up his spoon to snatch the duck leg from Qin Feng's serving spoon, and even warned him in a low voice, "That's not enough. You've taken all the good meat. What will others eat? Don't go too far, or else." But the next moment, Lu Xiaowang felt a sharp pain in his shoulder and found himself pushed out of the line. Qin Feng, as if he hadn't heard or seen him, walked straight to Squad 6 table with 2 plates in hand. Damn! Lu Xiaowang rubbed his shoulder, cursing under his breath. But the next second, his eyes widened in shock, and his jaw dropped. He discovered that there were bottles of iced tea on Squad 6 table. Wow, is it a festival or something? Why is it so lavish today? He exclaimed. Oh, and there's sweet water too. Hey, it seems like it's only our class that has this, while the others don't, huh? The members of Squad 6 stood in front of the table, staring at the mountain of plates with gleaming eyes. What surprised them the most was that each of them received a box of iced tea, although it was the kind that cost only $1 at a small supermarket. The feeling of having something that others didn't was incredibly satisfying. Not bad, Qin Feng. You clearly know how to serve in the new recruits company, someone remarked. But where did the sweet water come from? We never had this treatment before. In response to everyone's curiosity, Qin Feng explained that he had a comrade in logistics. Naturally, those sweet drinks were brought by Chen Sanchi. After all, having someone in a good position made a difference in treatment. At this moment, 2 figures walked into the cafeteria. One was an old acquaintance, Gu Xiong, and the other, who appeared to be quite refined, was likely the instructor. The new recruit's instructor, Bai Yuan, was just a temporary companion, while this instructor was the original partner. Upon entering, both of them instinctively cast their eyes towards the 6th squad, specifically towards Qin Feng. Gu Xiong nodded his chin towards Qin Feng, and the instructor also showed a friendly and gentle smile, as a form of greeting. Let us eat. With the command given, everyone immediately sat down and began to dig in. Wu Jin looked at the mountain of food on his plate, and then glanced at Qin Feng. Suddenly, he recalled what Zhao Pengfei had said to him earlier. This made him feel that being so targeted towards Qin Feng might indeed be a bit excessive. Wu Jin cleared his throat a couple of times, wanting to give him a symbolic compliment, but he just couldn't bring himself to say anything. However, he felt a bit pleased inside when he noticed the envious glances from other squads towards them. In the military, competition isn't just about training, it's also about meals. We are in the same company, and if we have more meat while you have less, that's a level down. Plus, we have a fruit platter while you only have a couple of orange slices, which is another level down. For some reason, Wu Jin found Qin Feng suddenly more agreeable to look at. However, he wasn't good with words and didn't know how to say anything nice. He thought about picking up a chicken wing from his bowl to pass over as a form of praise. Just as he lifted his chopsticks, Niu Taijun beside him cheerfully placed a piece of beef on a Qin Feng's plate, abruptly interrupting his action. Qin Feng, you've worked hard. Come on, eat more, he said. Next time, let us trade for some fruit or fresh coconut juice. Qin Feng's plate kept piling up higher, and he could only keep expressing his gratitude. At a nearby table, Gu Xiong watched this scene with a big smile on his face. This kid had just arrived and was already fitting in with the 6th squad. Perhaps this was his charismatic personality. He really was something special. The instructor, Gua Haitao, nodded in agreement with a smile, clearly fond of this soldier. Everyone ate quickly, finishing their meal in just 5 minutes. As the one on duty, Qin Feng had to stay behind to clean up and wipe the tables. Once everything was tidied up and put back in place, he prepared to leave the cafeteria and return to the dormitory. However, just as he stepped out of the cafeteria door, he was blocked by a figure. Brother Feng, how's the drink? Chen Sanchi asked, shaking his head with a look that seemed to seek praise. Qin Feng laughed heartily and gave him a thumbs up. A stream of sweet words flowed from Chen Sanchi like they were free, making him grin from ear to ear. He also mentioned that there were some near-expiry colas and coconut juices in the back warehouse, promising to switch up the flavors for him every day. Qin Feng was quite happy about the prospect of enjoying sweet drinks regularly during meals. After all, life in the military is quite regimented and can be relatively dull. Sometimes, seemingly insignificant little pleasures can indeed bring a different kind of happiness. It's like when a girl suddenly receives flowers from her boyfriend. The feeling is quite similar. This can be seen from the smiles and joyful expressions on the faces of the veterans during mealtime. After chatting briefly with Chen Sanchi, Qin Feng went to the kitchen to find Zhao Pengfei. The squad leader had already adapted well to the role of the logistics officer. When Qin Feng arrived, he was directing the kitchen staff to clean up. Qin Feng chatted with Zhao Pengfei for a while outside, mainly concerned about the squad leader's health. When he learned that the squad leader could walk without crutches and could carry things in his hands, he felt much more at ease. Although his condition was still far from ideal compared to the initial state, as long as he continued to improve day by day, it was a good thing. Of course, relying solely on his own recovery would not be enough, considering that Zhao Pengfei was injured while on duty and had been awarded a second-class merit. The unit and the police jointly allocated funds for his subsequent rehabilitation treatment. Various nutritional supplements like calcium tablets, bone-strengthening powder, and royal jelly were provided in abundance. As a result, Zhao Pengfei's face was noticeably rounder than before. However, these were just supplementary aids meant to provide extra nutrients to his body. Once his condition improved further, formal rehabilitation training would need to begin. On the way back from the cafeteria, Qin Feng took a deep breath and felt very good. At least for now. Everything was developing in a positive direction. Next, he needed to work hard to improve and raise his own level. As for how to improve, it would require practical experience to hone his skills. Qin Feng rubbed his hands together, eager to get started. Just as Qin Feng stepped into the dormitory building and was about to head up the stairs, a few figures suddenly surrounded him, blocking his path. He glanced over and noticed that these were the duty personnel from noon. "Is there something you need?" he asked. Leading the group was Lu Xiaoguang, who had an unfriendly expression on his face. "Hey, during lunch at the cafeteria, weren't you a bit excessive? You took all the good meat and left us with duck heads and necks. Have you never eaten meat before? Also, why does your squad have a fruit platter while ours doesn't? Do you know that because of you, we got scolded by the squad leader when we returned?" Qin Feng feigned innocence. "Really? I didn't know. Why don't you go ask the kitchen staff?" Lu Xiaoguang was immediately irritated by Qin Feng's act of playing dumb. "Let me tell you, don't think you can do whatever you want in the army just because someone is backing you up." Qin Feng was a bit confused. "Okay, you go ahead." Seeing that Qin Feng's attitude was relatively good, Lu Xiaoguang's tone softened somewhat, but his words still dripped with arrogance. "The army is a place that values strength. If your abilities are lacking, you should keep a low profile. Otherwise, during future training, it's easy to be put in your place, you know?" "Yeah." An inexperienced soldier next to him immediately chimed in. "Do you know who our brother Lu is? He ranked second in the training assessment of the training brigade. He completed 5 kilometers in 20 minutes and 3 seconds, almost breaking the previous record. Hey, you better tone it down around here. If you see our guy, just steer clear, got it? Oh, so you're quite impressive. Keep it up. Good luck." Qin Feng patted his shoulder and gave him an encouraging look. Then he pushed through the crowd and headed straight upstairs. A few new recruits stared wide-eyed, completely frozen. Even Lu Xiaoguang looked like he had just eaten something unpleasant. "What do you mean quite impressive? What do you mean keep it up? Why do you act like you're the superior leader? Damn it. Lu, don't get angry. Don't get angry. I feel like he has sensed your threat." "Really? He sensed it?" Hearing this, Lu Xiaoguang's expression improved significantly. Then he looked at the others, who were also new recruits from the training squad. "Of course, I felt it too. Look. My hair is standing on end. Right. Didn't you see that this kid was scared and ran away? Lu, he was intimidated by your aura. He's afraid of you." With the flattery from the new recruits, Lu Xiaoguang suddenly felt puffed up with pride. "Humph, I just need to make a slight move, and I can easily handle this kid. Lu is awesome. Lu is truly the king of soldiers, radiating dominance." Lu Xiaoguang looked up at the building, revealing a victorious smile like a dragon king. Indeed, having strength in the military means you can walk with confidence. When he gets a chance to use his phone this weekend, he must post something. Turns out, as long as you're impressive enough, the whole world will make way for you. Back already? As Qin Feng reached the 3rd floor, he saw Wang Guowei coming out of the water room with a thermos. Wang Guowei glanced at the stairs. "I just heard someone downstairs talking to you. Are those your new recruit comrades?" Qin Feng casually shook his head. "Just a bunch of unrelated people." This made Wang Guowei pause for a moment before bursting into laughter. After so many years in the military, he was well aware of the situation. Those must be new recruits from another squad feeling like they were being treated differently. So they came to pick a fight with Qin Feng. Although he didn't know the details, seeing Qin Feng so calm, it was likely that they didn't get anywhere. "Wang Guowei, what's so funny? Share it with us." Originally, everyone in the dorm was busy with their own things. Some were reading, some studying, and one was doing push-ups. When they saw Wang Guowei come in with a smile and a water bottle, someone immediately asked curiously. Wang Guowei nudged Qin Feng to share what had just happened on the stairs. When they heard that a bunch of new recruits had the audacity to challenge Qin Feng, everyone burst into laughter. Although Qin Feng didn't suffer any loss, they still offered some comforting words. "Qin Feng, excellent people always attract jealousy. This is very normal. Yes, just keep a calm mind and ignore them. As long as we're here, no one dares to mess with you. In fact, the military is just a small society where all sorts of annoying people exist. Some just can't stand to see you do well. They're bored and have nothing better to do, so they like to pick fights and nitpick. Bang! Wu Jin slammed the book onto the table, his face alternating between shades of blue and purple. He thought to himself, I'm just trying to quietly learn. Who the heck is reflecting back at me? We weren't talking about you, old Wu. Bandai quickly reacted and waved his hands to explain. Yes, we were talking about those little brats. We're not pointing fingers at you. Yeah, old Wu, don't take it personally. Wu Jin's expression was as grim as it could get. Still not pointing fingers at me, just short of shoving it right up my nose. He stood up angrily. Qin Feng, come out with me. Yes. As soon as Qin Feng stepped out, a sudden sharp whistle echoed from downstairs. Chapter 146 New Recruits Joining the Company Ceremony. Future of the Steel Blade Company in front of a bronze dagger sculpture. The entire Steel Blade Company had assembled. In front of the formation stood a line of over 10 new recruits, standing tall and proud, their eyes shining with excitement and eagerness. Their backs were straight, as if they had a mop handle stuffed behind them. 5 minutes ago, everyone received the notification that the new recruit joining ceremony was about to take place. For every new recruit, this ceremony was the most sacred and glorious moment. It represented their complete acceptance into the company, becoming a part of this big family. Therefore, everyone, including Qin Feng, felt very excited. Under the flagpole, Instructor Gua Haitao nodded to the company commander. Gu Xiong walked directly in front of the new recruits and said loudly, before we officially start the joining ceremony, I have a question to test you. The new recruits all turned their eyes towards Gu Xiong, curiosity written on their faces. They wondered what kind of question the commander would ask. Gu Xiong raised a finger and pointed to the sky. Who can tell me how many people are in our Steel Blade Company? Reporting. Lu Xiaowang was the first to step forward and responded loudly, including logistics personnel. There are about 130 people. Wrong. Then it's 120 people. Still wrong. Lu Xiaowang felt embarrassed at the incorrect answers. The Steel Blade Company had 10 squads, each with 10 to 11 members, plus logistics personnel. That should be about right, right? Could it be that new recruits don't count? Just as Lu Xiaowang was silently grumbling, Gu Xiong turned his gaze to the others. Without exception, no one could provide the correct answer. Finally, Gu Xiong's eyes landed on the recruit at the front of the left row. Private Qin Feng, tell me, how many people are in the Steel Blade Company? Reporting, the Steel Blade Company was established 77 years ago. Qin Feng replied in a loud voice. Standing straight, during these 77 years, a total of 7,984 people have become members of the Steel Blade Company, of which 4,324 sacrificed their lives for the country. Upon hearing this answer, all the new recruits shuddered, their astonished eyes involuntarily glancing at Qin Feng. Even all the veterans behind them turned their gazes toward Qin Feng's back. Their understanding of this new recruit was limited to knowing he was a first-class meritorious soldier. In simple terms, they knew he was good, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly how. However, now the word excellence seems to have been vividly embodied in Qin Feng. This young man is the only one among the new recruits who answered the question correctly. In the ranks, Xiao Pengfei smiled, not particularly surprised. It was within his expectations that Qin Feng could answer correctly. On the other hand, Wu Jin, the acting squad leader of the 6th squad, was filled with disbelief. He never dreamed that Qin Feng could recall the history of the company so clearly and answer so precisely. Watching that upright figure, reminiscent of a spear, Wu Jin gradually began to let go of his biases and arrogance as he recognized his own mistakes. He finally understood why Xiao Pengfei had such high hopes for him. Well done. A satisfied smile flashed across Gu Xiong's face. But immediately after, he turned serious and looked at the other new recruits. Some companies pride themselves on having produced generals, while others take pride in their combat heroes. But the pride of the Steel Blade Company is the most sacred among all soldiers, because it comes from ourselves. As soldiers of the Steel Blade Company, you must remember all the predecessors who sacrificed in the history of the company during the year of 77. Without them, there would be no glory of the Steel Blade Company today. As all the new recruits responded loudly, they felt a tinge of shame in their hearts. They had arrived a day earlier than Qin Feng. When they first came, they were also taken on a tour of the honor room by the veterans. However, at that time, everyone was immersed in excitement and did not pay much attention, let alone remember anything carefully. At this moment, an absurd thought suddenly crossed Lu Xiaowang's mind. He began to doubt whether Qin Feng was just a young man there to gain some prestige. If he were merely there for that, he wouldn't care about these matters at all. Private Qin Feng, respond. At this moment, Gu Xiong suddenly fixed his gaze on Qin Feng. If war were to come, if the entire company fought until only you were left, would you have the courage to carry this company flag? Gu Xiong forcefully pushed the company flag, emblazoned with the words Steel Blade Company, in front of him. Looking at the company commander's sharp gaze, Qin Feng showed no hesitation. He solemnly accepted the flag with both hands and shouted his response from the depths of his chest. As the 8,000th soldier of the Steel Blade Company, I have the courage to carry this flag. As long as the flag is on my shoulder, I will never retreat in the face of enemy fire. Even if I fall, the flag will never fall. With a loud bang, Qin Feng slammed the base of the flagpole onto the ground. This strike felt like a heavy hammer hitting everyone's hearts, causing them to involuntarily straighten their backs and their expressions to become increasingly solemn. The flag fluttered in the wind beside Qin Feng. In that moment, it seemed that what Qin Feng held was no longer just a flag, but a blood-red giant axe capable of splitting the heavens. Seeing Qin Feng's resolute back as he gripped the company flag tightly, Zhao Pengfei felt a mist form in his eyes. He was grateful he hadn't left and was fortunate to witness this moment. At this moment, he seemed to see the future of the company. Many veterans, watching Qin Feng's back, felt an inexplicable emotion. This was the transmission of the light of faith, representing that this team had successors. Draw your swords. With a low shout from Gu Zhiyong, red cloths were lifted one by one. Steel knives tied with red cloths were suddenly in view. Qin Feng took the heavy steel knife from the company commander's hands and finally understood the origin of the name Steel Knife Company. Its predecessor was the Great Knife Squad that fought against the enemy in the past, the Great Knife Company. Years had passed, and everyone thought this team had long disappeared in the river of time. However, it was unexpected that the Border Defense Regiment had preserved this unit and changed its designation to Steel Knife Company. However, Qin Feng was well aware that this unit had gradually modernized with the changes of the times. It had all the necessary long and short firearms, and its training methods were no different from those of regular troops. The knife was more like a spiritual sustenance, a symbol to remind future generations not to forget the past glory. After the induction ceremony, Gu Zhiyong said some encouraging words. The new recruits returned to the ranks, but their emotions were still extremely excited, because from this moment on, they had truly integrated into this big family and become proud soldiers of the Steel Knife Company. In simple terms, they had found their organization. But their joy didn't last long. Gu Zhiyong's next words doused everyone with a bucket of cold water. Next, I need to announce something. This matter concerns our company and every person present. Everyone, listen carefully. Upon hearing the captain's words, many people became serious. It was not only personal, but also related to the Steel Knife Company. This must be a significant matter. Looking at the curious gazes from below, Gu Zhiyong didn't keep them in suspense. Next, we will have a match against our former unit, a week from now, at the back mountain of the regiment headquarters. In a confrontation exercise. Upon hearing about the confrontation exercise, everyone was in an uproar. Although they had become independent, everyone still had strong feelings for their former unit. However, they were not particularly worried about losing. In the past, they often had confrontations in the regiment. Although their weaponry and firepower were somewhat weaker, the Steel Knife Company excelled in physical fitness and individual tactics. However, Gu Zhiyong turned the conversation. This battle will not be easy. This is our first time fulfilling our duties, so it's a significant test for us. This time, we will not be fighting one-on-one, but we will be facing 5 of their companies at once, and we must defeat them all. What? 1 against 5? Is this a confrontation or being besieged? The scene immediately erupted in discussion. Everyone felt that this was a bit unreasonable. Although the Border Defense Regiment was weak, launching a human wave tactic with 5 companies could easily overwhelm them. Especially the sharpshooter teams, their strength should not be underestimated. Company commander, isn't this request a bit excessive? Before Deputy Platoon Leader Lu Yong could finish his sentence, Gu Zhiyong interrupted him with a raised hand. Let me finish speaking first. This is not just a simple confrontation. It is also a test from our superiors. Therefore, we can only win, we cannot lose. If we lose, I don't need to say much. You should know what the consequences will be. There was silence in the room. The consequences of failing to complete the mission were all too clear. Gua Haitao took over the conversation and said, everyone has grievances, but this is an order from our superiors. As soldiers, we must obey, with no room for negotiation. Additionally, this is also a test from the higher-ups for us. If we can withstand it, then we, the Steel Knife Company, can go further. No one spoke, as there was a sense of uncertainty. If it were 1 against 2 companies, they could grit their teeth and go for it. However, what if the other side deployed an artillery company along with tank support? How could they fight back? The Steel Knife Company excelled in individual combat and lacked large-scale destructive weapons. Moreover, it was 1 against 5, which left everyone feeling quite uneasy. There was only a week in total, and even if they intensified their training, it would hardly be enough. Seeing the increasingly grim faces in the crowd, Gu Zhiyong raised his voice and shouted, everyone, perk up. You all look so downcast, like you're in mourning. If someone didn't know better, they'd think we just suffered a defeat. Gu Zhiyong exclaimed. Our company has been established for 77 years, and in these years, we have faced countless battles. But we have persevered through every one of them. Now we're just being asked to have a real combat drill with our former counterparts. Are we going to back down? Everyone is so scared of the wolf in front and the tiger behind. What kind of Steel Knife Company is that? We might as well smash our knives. Gu Zhiyong's voice carried a penetrating force that deeply stirred the fighting spirit of everyone present. Being entrusted with important responsibilities means being ready to shoulder heavy burdens. This is their resolve, and it is what they must do. Moreover, only they can do it. Report to the company commander, we will definitely win. Yes. Even if it's 1 against 5, so what? When our company was in the regiment, we were the big brother, and we still are. Don't talk about 5 companies. Even if all 13 companies of the Border Defense Regiment came, we wouldn't be afraid. The atmosphere was instantly ignited, and the soldiers' fervor made them fearless. Gu Zhiyong nodded in satisfaction. In preparation for the confrontation a week from now, I have decided that starting today, from this moment on, all rest and relaxation time is cancelled. All energy and time will be devoted to training, striving to elevate our strength to a new level within this week. We must win this confrontation, and we must win it decisively. Yes, everyone shouted in unison with great force. The thunderous roar represented their determination. All right, enough talk. Now each team, get organized and start training. Dismissed. As soon as Gu Zhiyong's order was given, each team prepared to quickly head to the training ground. Wu Jin glanced at Qin Feng, wanting to sincerely praise him. However, the instructor's voice came from behind. Qin Feng, step forward. Yes. Watching Qin Feng leave the group and run over, Wu Jin, once again interrupted while casting a spell, felt as if he had swallowed a bitter pill. Why was it so difficult to have a good conversation with him? Instructor, what are your orders? Qin Feng stood at attention and saluted in front of Gua Haitao. Gua Haitao looked at him seriously. Qin Feng, you should have noticed that our steel knife company actually originated from the big knife team during the fight against the enemy. Currently, we are the only surviving unit in the country. Instructor, I already know this, no need to mention it. Just tell me what you need me to do. Seeing Qin Feng's serious expression, the instructor turned to Gu Zhiyong. Gu Zhiyong shrugged with a smile. Qin Feng is one of us, no need to beat around the bush. Feeling a bit embarrassed after being pointed out, Gua Haitao cleared his throat, reorganized his words, and spoke again. Qin Feng, although you are just a rookie, I've heard from the company commander that you are very resourceful, and any problem that comes to you can be easily resolved. Instructor, don't listen to the company commander's exaggerations. I'm not that capable. Gua Haitao shook his head with a smile at Qin Feng's modesty. You managed to talk a soldier who wanted to jump off a building back from the edge with just a bottle of liquor and a bag of peanuts, and turned his heartbreak into motivation. That's not something just anyone can do. Old Fan's barbecue business was revived thanks to your advice. I've seen it. And it's thriving. He glanced at Gu Zhiyong. And the company commander's personal relationship issue was also thanks to you. That one, hasn't he been resolved? Qin Feng emphasized honesty. Resolving something means it's resolved. Unfinished matters don't count. Gu Zhiyong laughed heartily, putting an arm around Qin Feng and patting his shoulder. In my eyes, you did resolve it. You don't know, now I've switched roles with her. She messages me almost every day to chat. And I'm just indifferent. Watching the company commander's smug expression, Qin Feng couldn't help but twitch his eye. He thought, Commander, you seem a bit too pleased with yourself. Take it easy, don't trip over your own feet. Instructor, Commander, does that mean? Gua Haitao took a deep breath and said sternly, although dealing with the old unit is a pain, it's ultimately for the betterment of the Border Defense Regiment. Therefore, this battle must be won, and we need to win it convincingly, exposing all their shortcomings and issues. We want to know if you have any ideas. To put it simply, Gu Zhiyong patted Qin Feng's shoulder again, seriously stating, we need a strategist, and we need someone to come up with plans. So, you want me to go back to my old job? Hearing this, a smile appeared on Qin Feng's face. Coincidentally, I happen to have a bold plan. But I wonder if the two leaders dare to give it a try? Chapter 148, being the class leader? As a new recruit, isn't that inappropriate? On the training ground, a group of new recruits is running 5 kilometers. Since the new recruits have just joined the unit, they can't immediately keep up with the pace of the larger group. Therefore, they usually need a period of intensive training. After all, what everyone learns in the new recruit company is just some basic knowledge. There are many things to learn in order to quickly catch up with the veterans. Lu Gu, what do you think the company commander and the instructor are discussing with that guy? Lu Xiaowang glanced towards the flag platform, shrugged, and said, how would I know? Immediately, someone raised a question. Logically speaking, among this batch of new recruits, Lu Gu is the most impressive. If the company commander and the instructor want to talk to a representative of the new recruits, they should be talking to you, not Qin Feng, right? Yeah. He just knows a couple more passages of the company history. Look at him showing off. I think during the induction ceremony, the flag should have been handed to our Lu Gu. Don't you all agree? Faced with the crowd's flattery, Lu Xiaowang chose to remain silent for the first time. People are often numb and ignorant at first. However, the fact that Qin Feng could serve as the representative of the new recruits and take the company flag, while Lu Xiaowang did not have that qualification, already indicates something. The company commander and the instructor must have sharp eyes. The induction ceremony is a very solemn and sacred event. If Qin Feng were truly a poor soldier, he wouldn't have been able to answer that question correctly. The company commander also would never hand over the company flag, which symbolizes glory, to Qin Feng. It's even more unlikely that he would have been kept behind for a private discussion after the team disbanded. Although Lu Xiaowang didn't know what was so special about this guy, at least from these facts, he could judge that Qin Feng should also be among the top recruits in his new recruit company. Perhaps not as outstanding as himself, but certainly not too far behind. Lu Xiaowang took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Let's not worry about him. Let's focus on our own running. Remember to maintain a steady breathing pattern. Lean your center of gravity forward. These are all tips that I usually don't share with others." No wonder. Someone who almost broke the record for 5 kilometers is following Lu Ji's guidance. Lu Gu has a bit of a pigeon-toed gait, and if we learn from him, we will definitely run faster and save energy. Amidst the praise from the new recruits, Lu Xiaowang smiled mischievously, resembling a cunning dragon king. However, his goal has never been to compete with the new recruits. As for that Qin Feng, he didn't pay much attention to him either. His goal was to learn from the veterans, surpass them, and then make a remarkable impression in the Steel Knife Company. At the same time, shouts of training came from the sand pit not far away. Class 6 was divided into 2 groups practicing a technique. Simply put, it's when the person behind suddenly grabs the legs of the person in front and throws them forward. The person in front must quickly react in an instant, putting both hands on the ground to avoid injury while also quickly breaking free. This training is an essential skill for reconnaissance soldiers. Although they are falling on sand, the injury rate is still high. Bruises, dislocations, and abrasions are almost a daily occurrence. At this moment, all the veterans from Class 6 shouted in unison. Led by Wang Guowei, they jumped up and slammed their backs heavily onto the ground. The loud thuds echoed continuously, but when it was Niu Tiejuan's turn, he just couldn't bring himself to do it. He could only let his backside hit the ground first, and then slowly lie down, attempting to get away with it. Niu Tiejun, what on earth are you doing? You've practiced the backward slam for so long, and you still can't get it right? The irritable Wu Jin came up and kicked Niu Tiejuan's backside twice. Niu Tiejuan's small eyes were filled with grievance. Class leader Wu, I have no problem with falling forward. But the backward slam, I really can't do it. I'm afraid if I jump too high and accidentally hit my head on the ground, it could leave me half paralyzed. You've got the posture right. How could your head hit the ground first? Wu Jin was furious. And that fall forward of yours, can you really call it problem-free? I saw it clearly. You always land on your hips first. The squad leader has told you this so many times. When will you learn your lesson? Do you want to go to the medical room or something? Watch me. I'll demonstrate for you. With that, Wu Jin leaped into the air. At the moment of landing, he bent his arms at a 90-degree angle in front of his chest, fingers together and palms slightly raised. With a bang, Wu Jin smashed into the sand pit like a triangle ruler. Then he rolled over, followed by a quick jump to stand up. Finally, he jumped backward, slamming his back into the sand, producing a dull thud. Clap, clap, clap. Niu Taijun cheered and clapped. Wu Jin ignored him and insisted he repeat the process 10 times. Niu Tiejuan's face immediately turned sour, desperate to avoid training. He quickly changed the subject. Class leader, what are the company commander and instructor discussing with Qin Feng? Do you know? How would I know? As soon as Qin Feng was mentioned, Wu Jin's attention was immediately diverted. Unconsciously, he glanced toward the flagpole and saw that Qin Feng and the others were still chatting away. This left him puzzled. What could they be discussing for so long? Do you really think I can know what they are talking about? You know? What do you even know? Wu Jin shot Niu Taijun a glare, mercilessly putting him down. Niu Taijun brushed the sand off his backside, got up, and said with a grin, Class leader, while I'm not great at training, I have other talents. Your talent for taking a dump is about as useful as a deep-fried dough stick, huh? Someone joked, and the others burst into laughter. Get lost, stop messing around. Niu Taijun rolled his eyes, then said seriously, Class leader, my talent is being able to read lips. I can tell what they are talking about. Really? Wu Jin was skeptical. Of course it's true. This is an inherited skill from my family. You shouldn't doubt it. Seeing Niu Taijun patting his chest confidently, Wu Jin decided to give it a try and asked him to read their lips. However, the distance to the flagpole was at least 150 to 160 meters. Don't even mention lip reading. It's hard enough to see people's facial expressions clearly. But Niu Taijun really has a knack for acting mysterious, squinting his eyes, and pretending to interpret. The squad leader said, Qin Feng, that acting squad leader in your class, does he bully you? If he does, just tell me. You're the future talent of our Steel Knife Company. Wu Jin tilted his head, looking at him with suspicion. Is that guy reporting me? Don't interrupt me. I'm watching. Niu Taijun continued to play the part of a mysterious interpreter. Now it was the instructor's turn to speak. The instructor said that Niu Taijun in your class is also a promising talent. Don't let him practice the wrong way later. Let him rest on the side and buy him a bottle of soda. Damn it. Wu Jin kicked him away. You're just waiting here for me. And I was listening so seriously. Lift that brat Nyo Taijun up. If he won't smash down, we'll help him smash. How many times have I said this? Who remembers? 50 times. I remember. Smash him 50 times. Immediately someone gleefully reminded, and others directly said it was 100 times. Nyo Taijun was grabbed by a group of people, and they tossed him into the air. When he came down, it hurt so much it felt like his back was about to break. What the hell? It was agreed to be 10 times. How did it become 100? You guys are too bad. Meanwhile, Qin Feng finally revealed his plan. After listening, neither the squad leader nor the instructor said anything, but their brows were furrowed even tighter. Gu Xiong looked somewhat doubtful. Qin Feng, can this method of yours work? Gua Haitao also showed deep concern. If we really do this, does it count as a violation? If discovered, will the commander be furious? Qin Feng was somewhat speechless at their cautious approach. Squad leader, instructor, first you need to understand one thing. The initiative is in our hands. It's us who are training them, not the other way around. Therefore, no matter what method we use, it's not a violation because our intentions are good. If you think it's unreliable, then feel free to find someone else. On this matter, Qin Feng did not make any concessions. We're already acting as special envoys. Why be afraid of this or that? Gu Xiong and Gua Haitao exchanged glances, and in the end, they nodded in agreement. All right, let's use your method. As long as we can win and win beautifully, everything else is unimportant. Gu Xiong said seriously, Qin Feng, if your method works, if we really achieve victory, I will promote you when we return. Qin Feng was taken aback. Promote? Yes. Gu Xiong smiled at him. Zhao Pengfei has gone to logistics. Your class doesn't seem to have a proper squad leader right now, right? Squad leader, isn't it inappropriate? I'm just a rookie. There's no such thing as inappropriate. If we can win, your contribution will be the greatest. It's just being a squad leader. What is wrong with that? As you said, this is a special case. As long as you have the ability, who would dare to speak ill? Gu Xiong has made his point quite clear. If Qin Feng doesn't respond now, wouldn't that be too unappreciative? For a soldier, obeying orders is the primary duty, right? And coincidentally, Qin Feng excels in this aspect of following orders. Chapter 149. Better to run 5 kilometers in full gear than to run 400 meters with obstacles. Can anyone tell me what the predecessor of the Steel Knife Company is? On the training ground, the new recruits stood in line, ready. Squad leader Lu Yong walked past them, his gaze sweeping over each recruit's face as he coldly inquired. Report, I know. Lu Xiaowang was called out and stood tall, confidently stating, the predecessor of the Steel Knife Company is the Big Knife Company. When we were fighting the enemy, we usually carried out assault missions. Well said. Lu Xiaowang, having received praise, stood even taller, his face filled with pride. He couldn't help but glance over at Qin Feng, as if declaring his victory. How about that? You were able to answer before, but now you can't, right? Qin Feng could sense that this kid was trying to compete with him, but he didn't take it to heart. Because from the first moment he saw this kid, he felt like he was looking at a younger version of a certain individual. Both were equally proud and arrogant. Both had an air of superiority. The key point was, both were quite endearing like mascots. Therefore, Qin Feng didn't really want to hurt his pride. Letting him live in his own world was actually quite fine. Lu Yong raised a finger and continued loudly. If you want to wield a steel knife and slay the enemy, you must possess quick reflexes, agile movements, and great strength. Soon, I will lead you in a 400-meter training session, which will fully test all of these. Upon hearing about the 400 meters, some new recruits showed puzzled expressions. But Qin Feng knew that the full name of this distance should be 400-meter obstacle run. There is a saying in the military, better to run 5 kilometers in full gear than to run 400 meters with obstacles. Even for some veterans, the 400-meter obstacle course is a daunting challenge. The fundamental reason is that this training not only tests physical coordination and agility, but also consumes a lot of energy. Only those who run it know how exhausting it is. Before long, the new recruits were all taken to the 400-meter obstacle course. Looking at the neatly arranged new and unfamiliar equipment ahead, curiosity filled their eyes. After all, the new recruits had never experienced this kind of training before. It was like opening up a new map. This was also Qin Feng's first time seeing it, so he couldn't help but take a few more glances. He noticed that the 400-meter obstacle course didn't actually measure exactly 400 meters. It usually consisted of a 100-meter track plus 100 meters of obstacles. The obstacle course included barriers like hurdles, ditches, low walls, high platforms, horizontal ladders, balance beams, high walls, and low stakes. While running the 400 meters, you first had to run 100 meters freely, then navigate through 100 meters of obstacles. After reaching the finish line, you would return the same way. This back and forth added up to exactly 400 meters. It is worth noting that the methods for tackling most obstacles vary. Everyone, pay attention, I will demonstrate it first. Lu Yong wasted no time and directly showed how it should be done. He ran extremely fast, and describing it as fleet-footed is not an exaggeration at all. The obstacles seemed non-existent beneath his feet. In just 2 minutes, Lu Yong completed the entire course. Of course, this was just a demonstration, so he didn't exert his full strength. If he had gone all out, finishing in 1 minute and 50 seconds would not have been a problem. However, everyone noticed that Lu Yong was already somewhat out of breath. Even the veterans were panting, let alone the new recruits. At this moment, everyone realized that the 400-meter obstacle course, though it looked easy, was indeed quite exhausting. Did everyone see it clearly? Lu Yong wiped a slight sheen of sweat from his forehead. The first 100 meters are the same. The key is handling the obstacles. He emphasized some of the key points again and then let everyone experience it for themselves. There were 2 lanes on the track and 2 sets of obstacles, allowing for 2 people to run at a time. The group divided into 2 teams at the starting point, and with Lu Yong's command, the first 2 new recruits dashed off. However, as soon as they reached the obstacle area, both of them instantly faltered. The one on the left was too timid and didn't dare to leap over the 2-meter deep trench. The other encountered the high jump platform and, like a frog trying to leap, struggled for a long time without making it up. Lu Yong looked at the 2 making fools of themselves and showed a hint of mockery on his face. He had thought these 2 would falter on the return trip. But to his surprise, they couldn't even complete half the course and got stuck here, which was quite embarrassing. Those who can't get over, come back. Don't waste time for the others. The scolding rang out, and the 2 exchanged awkward glances before leaving the field in defeat. Next group go. With Lu Yong's command, the next pair charged forward. Having learned from the previous experience, these 2 new recruits performed slightly better. However, when it came to climbing over the 1.8-meter high wall, both of them couldn't get over due to insufficient sprint speed, no matter how hard they tried. Get down if you can't make it. Don't embarrass yourselves like 2 big turtles. Lu Yong still showed no mercy, yelling at them. The performances of the subsequent groups were generally unsatisfactory. On one hand, they struggled to overcome their fears. On the other hand, they were exhausted, lacking energy by the time they reached the later obstacles. However, the main issue was their poor coordination, with limbs being too stiff. The best performer among them jumped into the 2-meter deep trench on the return. As a result of severe exhaustion, he couldn't get out anymore. It was Lu Yong who had to send someone to help pull him out of the trench. Now that the others had finished running, it was finally Qin Feng's turn. Coincidentally, the one running with Qin Feng was Lu Xiaowang, who fancied himself the king of new recruits. In fact, this guy should have been ahead in line, but he switched to the last position just to compete with Qin Feng. Qin Feng, you're bound to lose. Lu Xiaowang turned his head, provocatively looking at Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng didn't give him any response, as if he hadn't heard him at all. This made Lu Xiaowang grit his teeth in frustration, thinking to himself that he would definitely outpace him on the obstacle course later and teach him a lesson with his strength. Squad leader Lu Yong also noticed Lu Xiaowang's intention to compete, so he tacitly allowed the position change. The goal was to see what kind of time Qin Feng would achieve in his first 400 meters. Ready, go? With Lu Yong's command, the 2 figures dashed forward together. In the first 100 meters, both ran at a similar speed. Lu Xiaowang glanced at Qin Feng on his right, a smirk forming on his lips. You must be running at full strength now, but I'm barely exerting myself. The real highlight will be the obstacle course, where I will surpass you by a wide margin and leave you in the dust. Just then, Qin Feng's speed suddenly surged. In the blink of an eye, he had already cleared 5 hurdles. By the time Lu Xiaowang came to his senses, Qin Feng had already crossed the trench, climbed over the low wall, and leaped onto the high platform. He turned around and shot Lu Xiaowang a disdainful glance, casually surveying him still stuck at the 5th hurdle. What the heck? At that moment, Lu Xiaowang's pupils dilated, his heart racing. He never imagined that in just a blink, he would be left so far behind. And what he didn't expect was that the worst was yet to come. While Lu Xiaowang was still struggling and hadn't even completed half of the course, Qin Feng was already turning back. Moreover, he was moving even faster than before, like a bolt of lightning. How could he run so fast? Lu Xiaowang felt like he was on fire, panicking. But the 400-meter obstacle course tests both mental acuity and coordination. The more flustered he became, the more likely he was to make a mistake. Sure enough, as Lu Xiaowang hurried across the balance beam, he slipped. Before he knew it, he fell off and landed on his back. By the time he groaned and got back up, Qin Feng had already navigated all the obstacles and was sprinting towards the finish line. 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Lu Yong pressed the stopwatch with excitement and rushed over to Qin Feng. Amazing, you did great. The passing time for the 400-meter obstacle course is 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and you achieved a good score on your first attempt. You must have run in basic training. Wait, no, there are no obstacle courses in basic training. Haha, you're impressive. Squad leader, I actually ran just okay. It was mainly because everyone else set a good pace, Qin Feng replied, intentionally flashing a polite smile towards Lu Xiaowang. Uffed. Lu Xiaowang felt as if he had received 1,000 soul-crushing blows, almost spitting blood. Even the other recruits couldn't escape the massive damage. This guy is definitely playing the fool to catch the tiger. Who the hell is this rich kid pretending to be a soldier, coming in through the back door? Clearly, he's just so strong that the veterans like him. Back in the ranks, Lu Xiaowang dared not look at Qin Feng again. He always thought he was the new soldier king of this group, but it turned out he was just a clown. During a 400-meter obstacle race, he hadn't even completed half the distance when Qin Feng had already reached the finish line. It was like being completely dominated and rubbed in the dirt by the other party. At this moment, the other new recruits also became obedient, even maintaining some distance from Qin Feng while standing in line. They were all new recruits, yet look at him, and then look at yourselves. It was simply embarrassing. Lu Yong coldly reprimanded them, but then comforted them. However, don't be discouraged. Most people are just like you during their first 400-meter obstacle run. Woo woo woo. Platoon leader, don't say that. We're already feeling pretty bad. Also, why did you have to add like a bird? That's too hurtful. Qin Feng, are you still able to run? Yes. Lu Yong pointed with his chin towards the obstacle course. Go run a couple more laps. Get familiar with it. I'll give him a lesson. Qin Feng responded with a smile and charged towards the obstacle course again. Although his physical fitness had reached the level of a veteran thanks to the training at Taiyang Xingjian, the 400-meter obstacle was still a new experience for him. He needed to practice more to gain proficiency. Moreover, this training would significantly help improve his limb coordination and flexibility. So even if the second platoon leader didn't suggest it, he would actively request to run a few more times. Watching Qin Feng's impressive figure on the obstacle course, all the new recruits, including Lu Xiaowang, felt a deep sense of defeat. When someone is about your level, you might feel jealousy. But if the gap is too wide, it's easy to feel defeated and inferior. Alright, stop looking so down. Even though you're all new recruits, he is different from you. Upon hearing the second platoon leader's words, the recruits all looked over in confusion. He ranked first in all tests, including written exams, in the new recruits company. However, Lu Xiaowang was still second in our division's training team. The gap shouldn't be this large, right? Lu Xiaowang felt too embarrassed to speak up and could only signal someone nearby to ask. Lu Yong smiled and looked at Lu Xiaowang. How fast did you run the 5 kilometers with light gear? 20 minutes and 3 seconds. While he did it in 19 minutes, 35 seconds. Seems like the difference isn't too much, huh? Facing Lu Xiaowang's stubbornness, Lu Yong chuckled. He ran it with heavy gear. Damn it. Big shot. I'm kneeling. Although many veterans might think this result was just average, achieving such a time after only 3 months of training meant he would only get better. At that moment, Lu Xiaowang wished he could find a hole to hide in. The results he was proud of were nothing in the eyes of others. No wonder Qin Feng had never even glanced at him. They weren't even in the same league. Let me tell you something you might not know. Lu Yong smiled as he looked at them. These achievements are just the most ordinary standards for Qin Feng. During his time in the recruit company, he was specially awarded a first-class merit medal by the commander, as well as the honorary title of People's Guardian. It can be said that this kid is the only one in our company who is a living first-class merit award. Wow! Everyone exclaimed in unison. Lu Xiaowang's legs went weak, and he almost knelt down. Is this even human? Not only is he excellent in all aspects, but he is also a first-class meritorious soldier with such an impressive honorary title. Which recruit company is he from? Which squad leader taught him to be a recruit like this? This is ridiculous. It's like he is using cheats. At that moment, the recruits looked at Qin Feng with completely changed expressions. Especially when they saw Qin Feng's figure constantly weaving through the obstacle course, admiration arose within them. Being better than you isn't scary. What's scary is that the person who is better than you, who is already impressive enough, works even harder than you. Squad leader, I want to run with Qin Feng. As soon as Lu Xiaowang said this, he was immediately interrupted by others. What level are you at to run with Brother Feng? Go away. Just seeing you would be a headache for him. Don't affect Qin Feng's training mood. Yes, from now on, when you see him, show some respect. Don't just see someone impressive and start saying he is a privileged soldier relying on connections. It's all because of you leading the way wrong. What the hell? Lu Xiaowang suddenly felt like he had eaten something unpleasant. Are you guys fickle? Lu Yong smiled. He enjoyed seeing these kids look so naive. He didn't say much, but directed them all to another running track. This track was specifically reserved for Qin Feng's training. In the past, there might have been some small complaints, but now they all raised their hands in agreement. Even Qin Feng himself didn't realize that this 400-meter obstacle run not only reversed his image as a privileged soldier in the recruits' minds, but also elevated his status to unprecedented heights. In the military, strength is revered. The more powerful you are, the more respect and attention you receive. Watching Qin Feng's speed increase and his results improve each time, Lu Yong's hand on the stopwatch began to tremble with excitement. While others slowed down due to excessive physical exertion, Qin Feng was in the completely opposite state. And by the third time, he had successfully completed the run in under 2 minutes. Watching the constantly refreshing data on the stopwatch, Lu Yong suddenly felt a tingling sensation on his scalp. Damn it, does this kid have no upper limit on his abilities? How can he keep improving? This indicates that Qin Feng's comprehension ability is extraordinarily impressive. At this rate, breaking the company record is likely just a matter of 10 days to half a month. Sighing, Lu Yong shook his head with a wry smile, expressing his thoughts. Indeed, hard work is nothing compared to talent. Nearby, the recruits all stopped running. Each of them stood with their hands on their hips, panting heavily, watching that figure continuously shuttle back and forth. At this moment, they could find no words to describe their feelings. All they felt was admiration. Lu Xiaoguang pounded his fist against the wall and let out a long howl. What a beast! This is truly a beast. Meanwhile, on the other side, Wu Jin had been closely watching the situation. The members of Class 6 looked utterly astonished. They knew better than anyone how difficult the 400-meter obstacle course was. Especially for the rookie Niu Taijun, he still couldn't complete it in under 2 minutes. He could barely maintain a good performance, and when in poor condition, he couldn't even reach the passing mark of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Yet, Qin Feng managed to qualify on his first attempt. And he was getting faster and more skilled. I can't believe this. Running the 400 meters so fast. Is he going to take off? Niu Taijun craned his neck like a turtle, his small eyes fixated on the obstacle course. Others were equally in awe. They remembered their first time running the obstacle course. Hanging on the high wall for ages, too scared to come down. It took them 3 days to finish the whole course. And they barely reached the passing standard in half a month. This kid's talent was simply extraordinary. Old Wu, looks like our Class 6 is about to rise. Wu Jin couldn't help but admire the sweat-drenched figure on the obstacle course. Under the shade of the trees along the main road, a military jeep was parked. Sitting in the passenger seat, Hua Haitao watched Qin Feng training hard, grinning from ear to ear. He kept slapping Gu Zhiyong's thigh. Old Gu, your new recruits didn't go to waste, not at all. Bringing back such a gem, you're our unit's great contributor. Easy, that hurts. Stop slapping your own thigh. Gu Zhiyong grimaced, pushing his hand away. Hua Haitao laughed and continued. Old Gu, at this rate, Qin Feng will surpass most veterans in no time. In 6 months, he might reach our unit's top level. Gu Zhiyong sighed. I'm just worried about a bad start. If we lose the first battle, the commander will definitely. Hua Haitao shot him a glance. I've noticed that you, as the squad leader, always talk pessimistically. Qin is braver, more ambitious, and has his own opinions. While you're here worrying about every little thing, what big achievements can you accomplish? Besides, what's our goal? It's for the benefit of the border defense unit, and to help old Chiu regain his confidence. Since our intentions are good, who cares about the means? Haha. You have a point, Gu Zhiyong chuckled, feeling much better. Hua Haitao added, I just found out that Xiu Gua is studying abroad and isn't in the unit right now. So we need to seize the opportunity. Gu Zhiyong nodded without any further discussion. He stepped on the gas, and the vehicle sped down the road leading out of the camp. Chapter 151. Being brothers, always in each other's hearts. Call when you can't reach them. Old Wu. My life is tough, it's really tough. In the private room of a rural guest house, Gu Zhiyong, slightly intoxicated, held up his glass and vented his frustrations to Wu Jian, the squad leader beside him. Why is it that among so many regiments and companies, I was specifically chosen for this task? I've been trained by the regiment, and now I'm being asked to do this. Isn't that just asking for trouble? I'll have to worry about being ambushed every time I walk home at night. Seeing Gu Zhiyong's sorrowful demeanor, Wu Jian put down his glass and tried to comfort him. Old Gu, don't overthink it. We are soldiers. We must obey orders. When the higher-ups give a command, we just execute it honestly. Besides, being chosen for this task means they recognize your capabilities, right? What capabilities? Gu Zhiyong slammed his cup down on the table, instantly agitated. This is clearly just making a fool of us. It's as if they want us to become scapegoats. I'm only 32. How can I advance if I'm hated like this? Old Wu, I really wish you could take this task instead. Wu Jian's eyelids twitched. Only a fool would take this on. If word got out, it would be seen as betraying our roots. The unit had just been established independently, and now we're turning against our former masters. How would others view it? What would the regiment think? At that moment, Hua Haitao, who had been silent until now, suddenly slammed his chopsticks on the table. Gu Zhiyong, are you still a man? Since you walked in, you've been whining like a woman. Just as Wu Jian was about to say something to calm the situation, Gu Zhiyong grabbed him and continued to lament. Old Wu, this time in the upcoming confrontation, we're bound to lose. 1 company against 5, you know I'm done for. I have one request. During the exercise, be ruthless so that those other companies don't get the glory. If I'm going to lose, at least let it be to you guys. That way, it won't sting as much knowing I lost to familiar faces. Seeing Gu Zhiyong's almost tearful expression made Wu Jian feel a mix of emotions. He couldn't help but voice his thoughts, fueled by the alcohol. It's just unreasonable for one to take on 5. This ISNTA test. It's pushing us to the brink. Exactly, Gu Zhiyong sighed, shaking his head helplessly. Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd rather do a rotating battle. At least I do have a chance to compete with your squad. Right. Gua Haitao chimed in at an inopportune moment. It's like a hodgepodge stew. We haven't even spread out our formation, and we might just get overwhelmed. You know the unique situation of our unit. We rely solely on our legs, and have nothing else. If we encounter any armored vehicles, or infantry fighting vehicles, we'll be done for. If we're destined to lose, it's better to lose to your squad. At least I can give old Wu a chance to shine. Hearing the mention of a chance to shine, a glimmer appeared in Wu Jian's eyes. But he didn't say much. Instead, he quietly continued to drink, lost in thought. The room fell silent, and the three of them seemed like strangers, no one saying another word. But the three of them were fixated on the bubbling hot pot. No one knew what was on their minds at that moment. After a long silence, Wu Jian suddenly said to Gu Zhiyong, Old Gu, I have an idea. You guys first engage with the other 4 teams, and we won't participate in the early stages. What do you think? Isn't that just letting you guys take it easy? Gu Zhiyong immediately shook his head. No way, absolutely not. You know what kind of person I am. I never cheat. Besides, if Old Chiu finds out, won't that just cause you trouble? Oh, come on, you can rest assured. Old Chiu won't catch any evidence. Wu Jian assured him confidently. Then, he gestured for the two to come closer and lowered his voice. What I mean is not to let you take it easy. We're actually researching a new type of camouflage and ambush tactic. In the early stages, as long as we don't face a direct confrontation, we can stay in one position. This way, we can relieve some pressure on you and help you last as long as possible. He grabbed Gu Zhiyong's shoulder earnestly, as a brother. I don't want to see you distressed, but I also can't go against orders. I understand. Gu Zhiyong nodded vigorously. Wu Jian replied seriously. I can't help you much in this confrontation. I'm just hoping you can hold on a little longer. When you have very few left, our sharpshooters from the 4th team will come to see you off. As you said, if you lose to us, at least it won't feel so bad for you. Good brother, you really think of everything. You're welcome. It's the least I can do. Gu Zhiyong hugged him gratefully and patted him on the back with force, causing Wu Jian to grimace in pain. Gu Zhiyong's eyes were almost spitting fire. Damn it, you scoundrel, you're really calculating. Taking it easy in the early stages, and then snatching kills at the end, making us all wiped out. Just getting a free ride after a nap. After finishing their meal, Wu Jian pretended to comfort them a bit more. When they left, he almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Gu Zhiyong had been drinking and could only sit in the passenger seat. Gua Haitao, who had been drinking cola, drove the car. Not long after they set off, Gu Zhiyong started cursing again. He said this guy shouldn't be called Wu Jian, but rather true cunning or really cunning. Looking at him ranting like a machine gun, Gua Haitao smiled wryly. Isn't that enough? Aren't you tired? Old Wu has been in the army for so many years, he's not a fool. Your little tricks are outdated. I can't believe I considered him a brother. Brother Gua Haitao chuckled. What does that online joke say? As long as we're brothers, we have each other's backs. But when there's a problem, the phone doesn't connect. Gu Zhiyong snorted. At critical moments, he really can't be relied on. But that Qin Feng kid, he really understands human nature. Gua Haitao nodded. He figured out that your little tricks wouldn't work. It's better to be practical and offer benefits. Gu Zhiyong enjoyed the gentle breeze. Feeling quite refreshed, the 4th company has been temporarily subdued. We need to hurry and pay a visit to Old 8. Are we going empty-handed? Of course not. We'll drive to the county town. What are we going to do in the county town? Gu Zhiyong smiled slightly. Old 8 doesn't drink or smoke. His only hobby is eating some special little burgers. Among the units, the 4th and 8th companies are the strongest, and they have the best relationship with me. As long as we can weaken their strength in the early stages, our chances of winning will increase significantly. Gua Haitao nodded and immediately drove towards the county town. At the same time, he couldn't help but admire how clever Qin Feng's move was. Before the conflict even began, the Steel Blade Company had already taken action through internal division and disintegration. If we can exchange the least cost for the greatest benefit, why not? The essence of war is not about who performs best or fights bravely, but rather which side can maximize its gains with the least casualties after it ends. Qin Feng understood this well, which is why he used the Steel Blade Company as bait. Of course, there is a crucial element to this plan. The 4th and 8th companies must remain completely unaware. They need to believe that they are the ultimate beneficiaries. This way, the initial confrontation turns into a 1v3 situation. Although we will eventually face the 4th and 8th companies, taking them down one by one is far easier than facing 5 enemies at once. While this might seem a bit against the rules, psychological warfare is still a valid strategy. Letting the other side witness the treachery of human nature also helps them improve indirectly, perfectly aligning with the commander's expectations. An alliance of convenience, a clever tactic indeed. Gu Zhiyong flicked the cigarette but out of the car window, shaking his head with a smile. However, this was just the first phase of Qin Feng's plan. The tactic of forming alliances has many unstable factors. If the opposing side acts in concert, or if one party changes their mind during the battle, everything could fall apart. Therefore, Qin Feng had prepared a second step for this plan. which is the most crucial part of the entire strategy. Chapter 152, Collapsing New Recruits. Please send Qin Feng away quickly at 10 o'clock at night. The exhausted group returned to the dormitory after finishing night training. In preparation for the upcoming confrontation exercise in a week, everyone was fully committed. Whether it was eating, drinking water, or going to the bathroom, strict time limits were enforced. All energy had to be focused on training. Glancing at the somewhat weary veterans, Qin Feng furrowed his brow slightly. While this rigid training method could enhance the soldier's abilities over the long term, it was completely ineffective in the short term. Qin Feng. Someone shouted from behind, interrupting his thoughts. He turned around to see Second Squad Leader Lu Yong running towards him. Second Squad Leader, do you have any instructions? Not really instructions. Lu Yong smiled. I just wanted to let you know that starting tomorrow, you'll train directly with your 6th squad. Qin Feng paused. Isn't it said that new recruits need to concentrate on training for half a month? You don't need to worry about the others. Looking at Lu Yong's polite, yet somewhat awkward smile, Qin Feng tilted his head and glanced back. With a sweep of his gaze, he noticed that over a dozen new recruits, including Lu Xiaowang, collectively averted their eyes. Some looked up at the sky, some looked down at the ground, and one quickly turned his head to the other side. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng immediately understood. As the 2nd squad leader, does everyone not welcome me? No, absolutely not. Lu Yong also smiled a bit awkwardly and lowered his voice, saying, you're just too capable. Everyone feels too much pressure training with you. So they hope I can mention it to you. Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a mix of amusement and helplessness, but he could only agree. After all, as a top performer, his learning and growth had no limits. Especially after experiencing that real combat, his overall physical qualities had skyrocketed. This also made Qin Feng realize that the more he found himself in dangerous situations, the more he would benefit. In regular training, due to the lack of external pressure, progress would be relatively slow. However, even so, it was still somewhat intimidating from the perspective of ordinary people. Qin Feng didn't want to undermine Lu Xiaowang and the others' confidence every day. They were comrades after all. There was no need to push them to the brink. All right, I'll mention it to our squad leader later, and then I'll train with the veterans, he said. Okay, let's do that. Lu Yong smiled and patted Qin Feng. He then turned around and gave an okay gesture to the recruits. Seeing this, the new recruits let out a sigh of relief. The heavy weight in their hearts finally lifted. In the afternoon, during the 400-meter obstacle course, Qin Feng had them all on the ground for some tough training. In the evening, during tactical movements and bar exercises, their pride was similarly crushed. At that moment, everyone deeply realized what the gap meant and what it meant to humiliate oneself. Lu Xiaowang even began to doubt if he was mentally challenged or incompetent. How could others do it so easily while he struggled to keep up? Fortunately, starting tomorrow, Qin Feng would no longer train with them. They could finally escape the torment, no longer suffering from mental strain. Before long, everyone returned to the dormitory. The lights-out signal had already been sounded, and the dormitory building was in complete darkness. They could only hurry to wash up in the dark, although the visibility was poor. For the veterans who could quickly pack their bags in the dark, it was not a difficult task at all. Class representative, I have something to report to you. Qin Feng said. I also have something to discuss with you. The veterans had finished washing up and returned to the dormitory, and Wu Jin led Qin Feng into the hallway. Wu Jin asked, you go ahead, what's the matter? Qin Feng relayed the earlier words of the 2nd squad leader, hoping to train with the veterans from now on. Hearing that Qin Feng wanted to end the new recruit training early, Wu Jin first frowned but then quickly relaxed. Reflecting on Qin Feng's performance on the obstacle course today, it indeed seemed unnecessary for him to continue lagging behind with the other new recruits. Moreover, with his physical fitness, he can easily keep up with the training intensity of the veterans. All right, we happen to have a reconnaissance infiltration training tomorrow. What time is it now? Still not sleeping? What are you doing in the corridor? Before Wu Jin could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a figure approaching. Gu Xiong, smelling of alcohol, strode over with his hands behind his back. Squad leader. The two quickly stood at attention and saluted. Report, squad leader. I was discussing some training matters with Qin Feng. Gu Xiong waved his hand impatiently, cutting Wu Jin off. What time is it? Any matters can wait until tomorrow. Hurry back to sleep. You know how tiring training during the day is, right? Yes, squad leader. Wu Jin glanced at Qin Feng, just about to take him back to the dormitory when Gu Xiong, like a thief in the night, blocked the way. You can head back alone. I want to talk to Qin Feng for a bit. Wu Jin was utterly speechless. How many times has this been? How difficult can it be to have a moment alone with Qin Feng? Is he some high-ranking official constantly busy? Wu Jin helplessly returned to the dormitory alone, while Qin Feng followed the squad leader to the restroom. Whoosh! A cigarette suddenly flew over, and Qin Feng caught it with one hand. He then took the squad leader's lighter and skillfully lit it with a click. In the deep winter of December, the nighttime temperature was only around 5 to 6 degrees. Qin Feng, wearing shorts and flip-flops, felt a bit chilly on his arms and calves. Fortunately, he had a soothing little cigarette to help fend off some of the cold. As you said, I've already separately talked to the leaders of the 4th and 8th squads tonight. What did they say? Seeing Gu Zhiyong's serious expression, Qin Feng curiously asked. After all, this was the first step of the entire plan, so he was particularly attentive. Gu Zhiyong grinned. The process took some effort, but both agreed and want to take credit for this. Your method of using yourself as bait to lure them in is indeed good. If everything goes as planned, we'll be 1v3 during the initial phase of the confrontation, which significantly reduces the pressure. Qin Feng smiled slightly. That is true. But relying on others is never as good as relying on ourselves. In case of unforeseen circumstances, we need to have a backup plan. Gu Zhiyong nodded and asked for his opinion. Now it depends on your second move. I plan to blow the whistle at 4 in the morning. What do you think? Make it 3. 4 is too late. Young people don't need that much sleep. Hearing this, Gu Zhiyong's eyes twitched. Listen to you. Does that sound like something a new recruit would say? I feel like you're more like an officer than I am. All right, let us go with 3. I've already told Zhao from logistics to prepare. Afterward, Gu Zhiyong briefly went over the details with Qin Feng to ensure everything was foolproof before allowing him to return to the dormitory. As Qin Feng pushed the door open, he was greeted by the sound of snoring. The daytime training intensity was so high that even the veterans were feeling the strain. Just as Qin Feng lay down, Wu Jin on the upper bunk opened his eyes. He twitched his nose, noticing a faint smell of smoke in the air. Wu Jin turned over, looking incredulously at Qin Feng on the bottom bunk. It was late at night, and the squad leader actually called this guy to go smoke? Qin Feng. He lowered his voice and called out. What's up, class leader? Next time the squad leader gives you a cigarette, try to refuse it. Smoking too much will affect your training. Got it. After giving his advice, Wu Jin lay back down. In the military, new recruits actually have a long period of no smoking. Even after joining the unit, they must strictly adhere to this rule. Smoking too much can affect lung capacity, which in turn impacts training. Qin Feng smiled knowingly. Although Wu Jin spoke bluntly and had a hot temper, he was actually a good person. Time quickly passed to 2:50 a.m. The temperature had dropped to its lowest point. The trees in the camp were bare, with not a single leaf. A gust of wind blew, causing the swaying branches to rub against each other, creating a rustling sound. Everyone was tightly wrapped in their blankets, immersed in dreams. Suddenly, a sharp whistle broke the silence of the night. Beep, 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 beep. Hearing the long and short whistle, Wu Jin quickly sat up in bed and then shouted, Emergency assembly, get up. Chapter 153. If a friend dies, let us sell Qin Feng instead. Quick, quick, move faster. As soon as Wu Jin finished speaking, he jumped down from the top bunk. Originally, he wanted to pat Qin Feng to wake him up, but after landing, he was shocked to find that this guy had already put on his clothes and was quickly organizing his backpack. Damn, he's even faster than me. Wu Jin thought to himself and hurriedly started to get dressed. Sure enough, Qin Feng was the first in the class to get fully dressed and rush out of the dormitory. Class leader, even a new recruit is faster than you. Lu Taijun joked while packing his bag. Wu Jin glared at him. It's an emergency assembly. Why are you chatting? Hurry up. Hey, my hands Haven T stopped moving. The entire dormitory building suddenly came to life. The corridors and stairways were filled with the sound of hurried footsteps. Fully armed figures quickly ran down to the first floor. After grabbing their guns from the armory, they swiftly dashed out of the dormitory. However, when they rushed out, they were surprised to find a figure already standing in the open area in front of the building. And it was a new recruit. It was Qin Feng. Qin Feng didn't react much to the astonished looks from the veterans, because he was the one who initiated this emergency assembly. The whistle at 3 in the morning was also blown at his request. So, Qin Feng had already woken up at 2:45 a.m. and quietly put on his clothes in advance. See, this is the benefit of knowing in advance about the emergency assembly. Not only did he not have to rush, but he also got to watch others flustered. To be honest, it was quite enjoyable. No wonder those commanding officers in the military blow the whistle for assembly in the middle of the night as if they were addicted to it. Before long, more people rushed out of the building to complete the assembly and form ranks. Unlike the new recruits, everyone gathered in a very orderly manner this time. And it took very little time. However, Lu Xiaowang and others were noticeably slower in their assembly. Once the veterans had gathered, they hurriedly ran out of the building with their guns in hand. Gu Zhiyong stood at the front of the line, glanced at his watch, and reprimanded them without hesitation. This emergency assembly was much slower than any previous ones. Especially you new recruits, dawdling around. It was simply excruciatingly slow. Didn't you learn about emergency assembly or how to pack your bags in the training battalion? The new recruits accepted the criticism in silence, as they indeed lagged far behind the veterans. This was indisputable. A mistake is a mistake. Fortunately, Gu Zhiyong did not dwell on their shortcomings, but directly issued orders. Attention. At ease. Briefing. Upon hearing the word briefing, everyone quickly aligned their feet and stood straight. Gu Zhiyong coldly scanned everyone. simulating real combat conditions. We have received orders from higher-ups to reach the XXX area, 35 kilometers away, before dawn to support the battlefield. To avoid detection by the enemy, we cannot use any transportation and must run on our own 2 legs. Now everyone, turn right and advance at a run. Issuing commands in simulated real combat scenarios is a common training method in grassroots units. It not only increases the sense of urgency, but also fully engages the members. As a traditional unit, they undergo such training almost every month, usually running about 15 to 20 kilometers. However, no one thought much of it. In extraordinary times, extraordinary measures are taken to prepare for the confrontation in 6 days. Increasing training intensity at this time is standard practice. Watching the line of troops run towards the barracks like a long dragon, Gu Xiong took out his phone and dialed a number. Xiao Pengfei. We have all set off from our side. Are you in position? Report, Company Commander. We are still on the way and will start immediately upon arrival. Good. The next few days depend entirely on you. Yes. At 7 in the morning, the dawn spread across the mountains and fields. The air was filled with the scent of earth and grass. Large patches of green figures began to appear on the mountain roads. More than 100 members of the Steel Knife Company were all carrying heavy packs, huffing and puffing as they hurried along. After running such a distance, everyone's stamina had been greatly depleted, and their steps began to feel heavy. Noticing that the rear of the line was starting to loosen, the leading squad leader immediately called out to the back. Pass the command. Keep up, don't fall behind. Pass the command. Everyone keep up, don't fall behind. As the command was passed down, the previously loose formation gradually tightened, and the marching speed picked up slightly. At that moment, a military vehicle drove past, kicking up a cloud of dust. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be the company commander's vehicle. Gu Xiong leaned half his body out of the window, holding a loudspeaker. Are you all tired? Not tired. Looking at everyone's weary expressions, Gu Xiong chuckled. With all of you looking so down, it's hard to believe you're not tired. Let me ask you again, are you tired or not? Not tired. This time, everyone's response was a bit more spirited. Having spent a long time in the military, the veterans had gotten used to saying the opposite of what they felt. No matter how tough or exhausting it was, they had to say they weren't tired, because nobody in the army liked to hear defeatist talk. Very good. Gu Xiong shouted into the loudspeaker, since you're not tired. How about a sprint for the last 3 kilometers? No problem, right? As soon as they heard about sprinting 3 kilometers, everyone's faces fell. Their legs felt like they were filled with lead, and with empty stomachs. How could they sprint? Can we sprint for the last kilometer, Commander? Someone with thick skin boldly asked from the ranks. Gu Xiong initially raised the corners of his mouth, but then, as if performing a quick change in a Sichuan opera, he coldly replied, no way. There's only this little distance left, and you're still trying to bargain? Do you still look like soldiers from our Steel Knife Company? It must be said that the final was quite effective. Many military leaders like to add that at the end of their speeches, combined with a fierce glare. It could make someone's legs shake. Now, everyone, move out at full speed. Start running. The ranks began to speed up, and everyone gritted their teeth and surged forward. Gu Xiong's vehicle followed closely beside the group, the loudspeaker continuously urging them on. If anyone slowed down, they received a high-pressure, affectionate reprimand. By the way, I've already informed the cooking team to wait for you at the finish line. The first 50 people to arrive will each get 4 meat buns, 2 eggs, and a bottle of hot milk. The rest will go hungry. Damn it. Why didn't you say there was food earlier? Everyone cursed in their hearts. Then, like they had been injected with adrenaline, they gritted their teeth and rushed forward. At that moment, they didn't care about formation. It was every man for himself. After all, only the first 50 could eat. Seeing the sudden surge of energy from the group, Gu Xiong was momentarily stunned and then burst into laughter. He returned to the passenger seat, tossed the loudspeaker into the back, and wore a contented expression. These little rascals said they couldn't run, but when they heard there was food, they ran faster than dogs. The ancient saying of looking at plums to quench thirst has been replaced with meat buns to unleash potential. Gu Haitao, who was driving, chuckled in response. Gu Xiong nodded. I was initially worried that his second tactic wouldn't be effective, but judging by this scene, it seems it will be even more intense than we imagined. Isn't intensity good? What we want is intensity. The more intense, the better. Gu Haitao glanced at him and suddenly said, Old Gu, I just had a thought. Gu Xiong looked at him in surprise. What if this cunning tactic makes everyone resent us later? True. I wonder what your brilliant idea is. Gu Xiong stroked his chin, smiling at him. Gua Haitao had a mischievous grin on his face and said, How about we just sell Qin Feng directly? Gu Xiong slapped his thigh, laughing like an old shoe that had burst its seams. Oh, I was just thinking the same thing. As the saying goes, a friend's downfall is a path to my own benefit. In the carriage, the two exchanged glances, grinning like sly old foxes. Achoo, achoo. Not far ahead, Qin Feng, who was running, suddenly paused and sneezed twice in a row. He rubbed his arms and looked around, thinking to himself how cold it was in the mountains. Chapter 154. Who's not convinced? Come fight. On a clearing by the forest, a multifunctional food truck was parked. Inside, Zhao Pengfei was leading the cooking team, bustling about. While telling the soldiers gathered around not to rush or shove, he distributed breakfast. Those who received their meals were either squatting, standing, or sitting on the stones. The big meat buns were delicious, and before they even finished chewing, content smiles spread across their faces. However, only the first 50 who reached the finish line were eligible to eat. The rest could only squat on the sidelines, watching eagerly and swallowing hard. Brother Feng, I brought you buns. Qin Sanchi came running over, squatting next to Qin Feng while holding a plastic bag. He tucked 2 eggs and a bottle of milk into his arms. Qin Feng took a bite of the meat bun and said, the skin is thin, and the filling is generous. It tastes great. Did you make this? Qin Sanchi scratched his head. I haven't learned how to make dough. They wouldn't let me. But I boiled these eggs. Looking at the 2 eggs in his hand, Qin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Isn't it just about having hands? Still, he praised. Well done on the boiling. Qin Sanchi beamed at the compliment and secretly stuffed a bottle of milk into Qin Feng's arms, suggesting he drink it when he got thirsty later. Watching Qin Sanchi scamper away and then glancing at the milk in his hands, Qin Feng began to suspect that this kid was just here to fish for compliments. So if I don't praise you, you hide the milk, huh? He is getting craftier by the day. Just then, a figure crouching nearby stealthily moved closer, resembling a crab. Seeing Niu Taijun suddenly approach, Qin Feng was curious. What's up? Niu Taijun looked around to ensure no one was watching, and then grinned while rubbing his hands. Nothing much, just curious. What are you eating? Is it a meat bun? Yeah, what about it? Is it pork filling or beef filling? Niu Taijun gulped, his eyes almost glued to the bun. Qin Feng immediately took a big bite. Chewing while replying, I think it should be pork. Wait, let me try another one. This one tastes different. This one is beef filling. It's really good. Really? Really good? I'm having a hard time believing that. Niu Tiejuan's mouth was watering, his eyes wide with anticipation. Qin Feng nodded emphatically. Really, it's especially delicious. Niu Taijun seemed to be uncontrollably reaching out, as if he were craving something. Qin Feng, can you give me a bun to try? If not, a boiled egg will do. The new recruit was reminded. You need to respect the veterans, right? Suddenly, he felt a kick on his backside. Turning around, he saw Wu Jin glaring at him fiercely, as if he were ready to pounce. What makes you think you're so experienced? You can't even run the 400-meter obstacle course faster than Qin Feng, yet you dare to call yourself a veteran in front of him? Go sit aside. And you think you deserve respect? After saying that, he casually threw an egg at Niu Taijun. Niu Taijun caught it with a grateful expression, looking as if he might bow in thanks. Then, he happily took the egg and sneakily found a secluded spot to peel it and stuff it into his mouth. Wu Jin sat down next to Qin Feng and said while drinking milk, you eat your food, don't mind others. It's Niu Tiejuan's fault for running slow. He deserves to be hungry. Seeing Wu Jin's fierce demeanor, Qin Feng couldn't help but find it amusing. This acting squad leader, like Zhao Pengfei, had a tough exterior but a soft heart. Soon, breakfast was over. Just when everyone thought they would head back the same way, Gu Zhiyong's words hit them like a bolt from the blue. Let me tell you something. We won't be going back in the next few days. Not going back. The crowd erupted in surprise, all displaying bewildered expressions. But soon, someone started to piece it together. They had been gathered in the middle of the night and brought to such a remote location, with trees all around. Were they going to conduct some kind of wilderness survival training? But wait, if it were survival training, why had they brought the logistics personnel along? Amidst the murmurs, Gu Zhiyong chose not to explain directly and called someone forward. Qin Feng, step out. Qin Feng, suddenly called out, was a bit confused. He didn't understand why the squad leader wasn't following the usual protocol. At this moment, it should have been Gu Zhiyong and Gua Haitao introducing the upcoming training activities. Although he was a bit puzzled, he quickly responded and jogged to stand in front of Gu Zhiyong. Squad leader, what are your instructions? Gu Zhiyong flashed him a mischievous smile. Without any explanation, he turned to the crowd and announced loudly, as for the upcoming training content, I won't explain it. Let Qin Feng tell you all. He knows better than I do and can provide more details. In an instant, everyone turned their puzzled gazes toward Qin Feng. His mind buzzed. This was a plot to throw him under the bus, making me handle the difficult tasks and take the blame? But on the flip side, wasn't this also an opportunity for him to shine under Gu Zhiyong's guidance? Stepping forward, Qin Feng showed no signs of hesitation. Instead, he calmly spoke, to be straightforward. This training has been specifically arranged with the squad leader's approval and authorization. The purpose is to prepare for the confrontation exercise in 6 days. In simple terms, for the next 6 days, all of you will follow my command. The words dropped like a bomb into a pond, instantly stirring up a commotion. Especially after they received confirmation from the platoon leader and the instructor, their unease intensified. Although Qin Feng had proven himself with outstanding achievements, he was still just a new recruit. Under normal training circumstances, such playful antics could be overlooked, and everyone would laugh it off without making a fuss. However, pulling such a stunt at a critical moment for the Steel Blade Company felt a bit reckless, to say the least. There was a strong and vocal opposition on site. But this was all within Qin Feng's expectations. The platoon leader and the instructor exchanged glances and chose to step back, opting not to intervene. They wanted to see if Qin Feng had the ability to command respect and maintain order. If he did, everything could progress smoothly. Not only would it help him establish authority within the company, but it would also accelerate his growth. After all, Gu Xiong had always intended to cultivate Qin Feng as a key member of the Steel Blade Company. For the future development of the company, they needed his support. Thus, Gu Xiong and Gua Haitao conferred and decided to push him to the forefront early on. They hoped that the pressure would unlock even greater potential in him, making him stronger and turning this sharpening stone into something unbreakable. Gu Xiong watched Qin Feng's back and thought, "Come on, kid. Let me see how much you can really do." Qin Feng, it's not that we're targeting you. The platoon leader and the instructor are clearly just teasing you. Can you really take it seriously? Although you have achievements and honors, and are indeed more exceptional than other new recruits, it doesn't mean you have the capability to lead us in training. Our company is filled with strong individuals, even your former squad leader, Zhao Pengfei. Wouldn't he dare claim such qualifications? You've only been with us for a few days, and you don't even know what we do. Yet you dare to boast like this? Niu Taijun wanted to express his opinion, but was silenced by Wu Jin's glare. While he didn't understand the intentions of the platoon leader and instructor, he knew that during critical moments, one must support their own. Even if he couldn't speak up for him, he absolutely couldn't add to the problem. By the dining truck, Chen Sanchi was anxiously scratching his head, wishing he could rush in and explain for Qin Feng. Squad leader, they're all talking about Qin Feng. Why isn't Feng Gu saying anything back? I'm dying here. Zhao Pengfei clenched his fists but quickly relaxed. Don't worry, Qin Feng has the ability to handle this situation. The platoon leader wouldn't let him take on this responsibility if he didn't have the capability. We've seen him grow, so we should trust him. But can we trust him when others in the company don't? Just watch. Qin Feng will find a way to make them believe. Facing over 100 aggressive remarks, Qin Feng's expression remained unchanged. He stood there like a towering mountain, hands behind his back, saying nothing. A few minutes later, the discussions naturally began to quiet down. In contrast, Qin Feng's aura gradually grew stronger. Even a single glance from him could exert a certain pressure on others. This feeling made many people uncomfortable. This is what is called the silent effect. When the scene finally quieted down, Qin Feng spoke calmly. Have you all finished? If so, it's my turn to speak. I don't like to complicate simple matters. If anyone thinks I'm unqualified or doesn't agree with me, come up and challenge me. If you can't even defeat a rookie, then please keep your mouth shut. As soon as he finished speaking, a private stepped forward with a defiant expression. Qin Feng was eager to see what kind of bravado he had. Before the private could finish his words, he felt a powerful kick to his stomach. In an instant, he was sent flying back into the crowd like a cannonball. At that moment, everyone's expression changed. This guy is actually skilled. Seeing Qin Feng take a half step forward with his left foot and draw back his arms as if preparing to shoot an arrow, Zhao Pengfei's delight was evident on his face. 8 Extremes Fist. This kid is finally about to show his true power. Qin Feng waved to all the veterans, his gaze fierce as he roared, "Next. Let us see who wants to watch Qin Feng take someone down. Raise your hand if you want to see." With a loud bang, Qin Feng launched an elbow strike directly to the chin of a first-term non-commissioned officer. The next second, the officer fell to the ground like a coffin lid, lying there peacefully with little stars circling his head. This was already the 4th veteran he had knocked down. Next, Qin Feng's arrogant words reignited the anger in the crowd. This was no longer mere provocation. It was an outright humiliation. A rookie was being so brazen as to take down 4 veterans in a row, 2 of whom were non-commissioned officers. What kind of behavior was this? It was simply reckless. At this moment, no one cared whether Qin Feng was a distinguished hero or the fresh blood of the Steel Blade Company. They only had one thought. They had to take him down, to beat him so badly that even his mother wouldn't recognize him. Only then could they wash away the shame and regain their lost dignity. Let me at him. I'm going to make him pay. The veterans roared like caged beasts, filled with anger. Even many from Class 6 wanted to step up and teach Qin Feng a lesson, making him understand what true strength meant. Watching the crowd's fervor, Instructor Gua Haitao's eyes twitched, feeling a mix of fear and anxiety. Fortunately, the company commander had limited the rules to one-on-one challenges. Otherwise, Qin Feng would have surely been mobbed by now. His actions had severely crossed everyone's bottom line. Even in any basic unit, such behavior would never be tolerated. This is like an elementary school student blocking the school gate and beating up a group of high school students, then boasting that none of them can fight. Who could tolerate that? Just as the instructor was curious about who Qin Feng would choose as his opponent next, he made a move that left everyone puzzled. Qin Feng chose Wu Jin, the acting class leader of Class 6. This decision left the veterans of Class 6 completely stunned, especially Niu Taijun, who immediately gave Qin Feng 2 thumbs up, praising him for his guts. As for why he chose Wu Jin, Qin Feng had his own thoughts. To win over the crowd, he had to start from within. If he couldn't even conquer the people of Class 6, there was no way he could manage the entire Steel Knife Company. Upon seeing the opponent Qin Feng had chosen, many people present immediately wore amused smiles, as if the outcome was already decided. Wu Jin was well known as a skilled fighter in their unit, and they thought Qin Feng was done for. No matter how good his boxing skills were, it wouldn't matter. He would still get knocked down. Old Wu, this kid is from your class, so it's your job to clean up the mess. Don't hold back, just turn him into a pig's head. The shouts from the veterans kept coming, and even Zhao Pengfei was sweating for Qin Feng. He knew better than anyone how strong Wu Jin was. This kid's fighting skills ranked among the best in the regiment and the division. Although Qin Feng's combat ability was impressive, it was only on par with Qi Ming. He could handle most veterans, but facing a master was another story. If Qin Feng could train for another 6 months, he might have a fighting chance. But in the current situation, winning seemed very difficult. Wu Jin walked up to Qin Feng and asked coldly, "Aren't you the one itching to fight me? Is it because of what happened when you first arrived, when I gave you a hard time?" Qin Feng shook his head. "Of course not. I just think you're quite impressive, so I simply want to have a match with you." Wu Jin smiled. As long as it wasn't personal, he wouldn't have to hold back out of guilt. "Qin Feng, no matter what, you shouldn't provoke the dignity of veterans or the honor of the Steel Knife Company in this way. I won't hold back, so if you want to admit defeat, do it early." Qin Feng smiled back. "Coincidentally, I won't hold back either. If you want to admit defeat." Before Qin Feng could finish, Wu Jin snorted coldly and charged forward with a punch. Seeing the rapidly approaching fist, Qin Feng didn't dare to be careless. Just as he was about to dodge, he realized Wu Jin's right hook was already coming toward his abdomen. As expected, he had some skills, starting off with feints. Just when Wu Jin thought he was about to succeed, he suddenly felt a pain in his chest and staggered back a few steps. Now sporting a large footprint on his chest, Wu Jin didn't expect that not only did Qin Feng see through his intentions, but he could also counteract instantly. He truly had some abilities. Wu Jin smiled as he brushed the mud off his chest. Then, with a sudden stomp of his right foot, he created a small pit in the ground and charged forward like a wild bull again. His fists moved like whips, striking extremely fast. Qin Feng didn't expect such a fierce attack this time, and could only keep dodging backward. Whoosh! A gust of wind rushed in. Qin Feng couldn't dodge in time, and took a whip kick to the waist. He wanted to counter with an elbow strike, but his opponent seemed to be well prepared, blocking with his arms crossed in front of his chest. As Qin Feng gradually fell into a disadvantage, the cheers of the veterans grew louder. Gu Xiong shook his head helplessly, thinking that it wouldn't take 3 rounds before Qin Feng would be defeated. However, managing to defeat 4 veterans alone would still be a remarkable feat, even in defeat. Just then, an unexpected change occurred. Qin Feng's moves suddenly shifted. No longer was he using the open and powerful 8 extreme fist, but instead switched to a more vicious and somewhat underhanded fighting style. "What the heck? Black Dragon 18 hands." Niu Tiejuan's exclamation stunned everyone. No one expected that Qin Feng actually knew this forbidden combat technique. Among the Steel Knife unit, not many people could wield the Black Dragon 18 hands, as it was officially prohibited. Moreover, they focused more on specialized skills for covert operations behind enemy lines. Thus, mastering 1 or 2 combat techniques was sufficient, and rarely did they venture into this direction. "You actually know the Black Dragon 18 hands? Is your instructor a genius, or what?" Taking advantage of Wu Jin still being in shock, Qin Feng executed a quick move. He punched a sensitive and vulnerable area just above Wu Jin's knee and below the navel. Wu Jin yelped in pain, tears streaming down his face. The crowd winced, feeling a chill run down their spines, as if a youthful bird had suddenly flown away. This strike successfully exposed Wu Jin's opening. Seeing Wu Jin's furious punch coming, Qin Feng immediately went for an eye poke and throat grab. Then, he wrapped his arms around Wu Jin's arm, using his shoulder as a pivot. With a shout in his heart, 80 for the big hammer, 40 for the small hammer, he executed a powerful shoulder throw. At that moment, Wu Jin felt a chilling sensation below, a sharp pain in his throat, and a burning in his eyes. Before he could react, he was already airborne, spinning in the air. Boom! With a tremendous force, a cloud of dust was kicked up. Wu Jin saw stars and felt as if his bones were about to shatter. Silence. The scene fell into complete silence. Everyone was stunned, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. They never imagined that even Wu Jin could be defeated by Qin Feng. He represented the top combat strength of the Steel Knife unit. And yet he was defeated by a new recruit. Qin Feng straightened up, panting, and faced the crowd, shouting 3 thunderous words from his throat. This time, no one dared to shout and challenge Qin Feng, because the vast majority of them couldn't last even 2 rounds against Wu Jin. At this point, even if they managed to get up there, they would only be cannon fodder, providing a head for Qin Feng. In fact, there were a few others in the unit who were even more outstanding in terms of martial prowess. However, they all tacitly chose to remain silent. As no one wanted to step up and expose themselves, Qin Feng had already defeated 5 opponents, and not only was he severely fatigued, but he also bore some injuries. Even if he won, it would not be considered a fair victory. Moreover, this guy was ruthless with his 8 extremes fist and could strike with the Black Dragon 18 hands when he played dirty. The combination of these 2 different types of combat skills made it extremely difficult to defend against him. If he were to lose, it wouldn't just be embarrassing. It could lead to severe consequences. Brother Feng is incredible, absolutely incredible. Chen Sanchi excitedly rushed over and hugged Qin Feng. Lu Xiaowang and the others were so thrilled they were on the verge of losing control. They even considered kneeling to show their respect to Qin Feng. This was because Qin Feng represented the new recruits, and they felt a sense of pride and association. Just having joined the unit, he had already taken down 5 veterans, earning the respect of the entire squad. Indeed, as long as you are impressive enough, even if you are a rookie, the whole world will make way for you. Lu Xiaowang realized that he was just meant to be a sidekick, while Qin Feng was holding the script for the lead role in a military drama. He had to cling tightly to this big shot. What do you have to say now? Gu Zhiyong asked, raising an eyebrow at the limping Wu Jin, who was being helped back. If even a rookie couldn't be defeated, then all the training they had undergone was for nothing. We might as well not call ourselves the Steel Knife Company and just call ourselves the Pencil Knife Company. A bunch of shameful fools. These words ignited a fire in everyone's eyes, and their fists clenched tightly. They could accept losing, but they absolutely could not lose face for the Steel Knife Company. This was something their predecessors had fought and bled for in battle. With Gu Zhiyong's continuous verbal pressure, the flames of anger reignited. Captain, what's the use of just being good at fighting? We rely on professional skills, not just on martial arts. Exactly, if he has the ability. Let us see him compete in something else. If he can win, we will completely accept him. Qin Feng, what do you say? Gu Zhiyong did not respond directly, but looked at Qin Feng inquiringly. Qin Feng understood that Gu Zhiyong wanted him to capitalize on his victory. The first win could only earn their verbal acceptance. Only by winning again could he earn their heartfelt respect. Relying solely on martial arts to make these arrogant veterans bow their heads was indeed a bit far-fetched. Therefore, everyone's reaction was actually within Qin Feng's expectations. If he wanted to make these guys completely accept him, he had to defeat them in their area of expertise. Our unit's strengths should be in individual combat, deep assaults, and infiltration operations, right? How about this? You send 15 people into the woods to encircle me, and if you can behead me within 3 hours, I will consider it a loss. Upon hearing that a professional skill competition was about to take place, everyone laughed. They looked at Qin Feng as if he were a fool. A rookie with no combat experience actually dared to make such a request. It's simply like hitting a stone with an egg, bringing humiliation upon oneself, and seeking one's own demise. No problem, since you want. Qin Feng raised his hand to interrupt, signaling that he wasn't finished speaking. If you can behead me within 3 hours, I will admit defeat. Qin Feng paused, a playful smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. If I can't take down all 15 of you within 3 hours, that too shall count as my loss. Chapter 156. Why bring a water bottle to a fight? Are you thirsty? How to make a group of veterans instantly furious with just one sentence. Qin Feng managed to do it. I have to say, he is truly skilled at provoking hatred. The result was that he successfully filled everyone's anger meter to the max. If looks could kill, Qin Feng would probably have been sliced to pieces by now. Even Gu Zhiyong, an observer, felt the almost palpable wave of heat. He knew that what Qin Feng said might come off as a bit arrogant, but he never expected it to reach such a level. Even he, as the squad leader, felt like he wanted to kick him a couple of times just to relieve his frustration. Qin Feng, this is not a joke. Although you were assigned to our squad, you haven't learned any professional skills yet. Taking on 15 at once seems a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? The instructor spoke very tactfully, but everyone could tell he was advising Qin Feng to reconsider. After all, no matter how strong your combat ability is, it will just be a matter of bullets on the battlefield. However, Qin Feng shook his head, indicating that he had already self-studied these topics from the books provided by the squad leader during his training. This included infiltration tactics, terrain mapping, jungle camouflage, and so on. Hearing that Qin Feng had self-studied from books, many people couldn't help but laugh in anger. Qin Feng, haven't you heard the saying? What you learn from books is merely superficial. True knowledge comes from practice. You think you can compete with us veterans based on some theoretical knowledge from books, and even take on 15 by yourself? Are you trying to be funny? At most, in an hour, no, in half an hour. You'll be turned into a sieve and bullied like a dog. But what if you guys end up being the ones bullied? Qin Feng turned to the soldier who had spoken earlier. Damn, if that could let you win, I'd go eat dirt right away. I'd join in for a pound. Hearing this, Qin Feng immediately found it amusing. He was just afraid some were forced into this, while others were naturally inclined to take on challenges. However, Qin Feng didn't want to waste time talking. If they could fight, they should avoid unnecessary chatter. Squad leader, you make the call. There are still plenty of things to deal with, so let us not waste time. Gu Xiong glanced at Qin Feng, thinking that this kid really had guts. Challenging such difficulty wasn't supposed to be done this way, but since things had come to this point, he had nothing more to say. Only by winning this battle could Qin Feng establish his prestige within the entire squad. Gu Xiong directly looked at the platoon leader, instructing him to select the participants for a jungle encounter with Qin Feng. At the same time, the armorer ran over with a box. Inside were various devices specifically designed to simulate real combat effects. During the battle later, everyone's magazines will be loaded with blank rounds, and the guns will be equipped with laser emitters. As long as the laser hits the sensors on the opponent, the smoke detection device on the helmet will be triggered, releasing white smoke to indicate a casualty. This set of equipment is commonly used in practical exercises to simulate injuries and fatalities. Before long, the 15 veterans had donned their smoke detection gear, all eyeing Qin Feng as if they were ready to pounce on him at any moment. I want to see how long you can last under our hands. Qin Feng didn't respond to the squad leader. Instead, he continued drinking water. After taking a few sips, he asked Zhao Pengfei for some water to fill his canteen. Qin Feng's actions left everyone puzzled, prompting them to voice their opinions. It's just a matter of 10 or 20 minutes. Why do you need a canteen? Are you that thirsty? Surrounded by 15 of us. Do you really think you have time to stop and drink water? I can do as I please, can't I? Qin Feng tossed the canteen behind him and lifted his head. Who said you can't drink water during a battle? This move left Gu Xiong a bit baffled. In this jungle confrontation, there's no need to carry any extra gear. Everyone just has a gun, a knife, and a few magazines. The lighter the load, the easier it is. Aren't you tired of carrying a full canteen? Of course, Gu Xiong wouldn't say anything about such trivial matters. He glanced at his watch and pointed to a dense patch of woods on the right. Qin Feng, you can enter the woods first. The others will enter in 3 minutes and hunt you down. If you are shot, the battle ends immediately and you lose. If any of them are still standing after 3 hours, you also lose. Is that okay? No problem. Qin Feng gave an okay gesture. Gu Xiong patted him on the back and quietly said, good luck. Qin Feng acknowledged him and quickly dashed into the woods, disappearing in an instant. As soon as Qin Feng left, squad leader Tang Lei cast a knowing glance at Zhao Pengfei beside him. Old Zhao, you went to the new recruits and not only came back with injuries, but also brought us a real handful. Tang Lei's words were clearly sarcastic, indirectly questioning how he managed to bring such an arrogant and disrespectful person into the unit. Although Zhao Pengfei's physical condition was not as good as before, his temper hadn't diminished at all. Squad leader, Qin Feng is just following the orders of the company commander and instructor. It's you who insists on making things difficult for him, which is just asking for trouble. Also, here's some advice. Once you go in later, take it easy. Don't think that just because you have the numbers, you will definitely win. The soldier I brought out becomes stronger when facing challenges. If you think you can treat him like a soft target, you're in for a surprise. Tang Lei laughed heartily, not taking it to heart. I admit he does have skills in combat. That Black Dragon 18 techniques must have been learned from you, right? However, the mistake lies in his repeated provocations of the veteran's dignity. You can't train a soldier well. I'll make sure to educate him properly later. I don't care if he's some top achiever. In my eyes, he's just an arrogant rookie who needs to be taught a lesson. Zhao Pengfei sneered, hoping he wouldn't get taken down by him. Tang Lei snorted, ignoring him and instead looking at the other 14 individuals. Dealing with a rookie is easy. We only need to show half of our usual level to handle him. In 10 minutes, at most 15, the battle will be over. We, as the seniors, have the duty to teach that kid what real individual combat is. Yes, flames of determination flickered in everyone's eyes, confident of victory. Soon, 3 minutes passed. Without any unnecessary words, Tang Lei waved his hand and led the team into the woods. You go left, you go right, search in tactical formation. As soon as you spot him, report the location immediately. Before taking him down, I must give him a couple of slaps to make him taste some hardship. Yes. The 15 quickly spread to both sides. The formation quickly took on a large arrow shape, advancing forward rapidly. Watching the veterans gradually disappear, Chun Sanchi anxiously asked, Squad leader, do you think Qin Feng can win? Don't worry, Qin Feng has seen his fair share of action, Zhao Pengfei replied. Suddenly recalling that previous battle, if a squad leader can't face the opponent head-on, even if they win, it will only be a Pyrrhic victory. The instructor was completely puzzled, unaware of Qin Feng's hidden cards. How could he possibly contend with a group of veterans relying solely on theoretical knowledge from books? Yet, Gu Xiong seemed to have suddenly thought of something. Although he was unclear about the specific details of the battle on the mountain, afterward, The Special Forces squad leader suddenly set his sights on Qin Feng. This indicated that the kid's performance in real combat must have been noteworthy. Otherwise, Yuan Feng wouldn't have come looking for him multiple times and even used charms to win him over. Now, even Ge Xiong was somewhat looking forward to Qin Feng's next performance. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, gunfire erupted. Everyone stared wide-eyed in disbelief as birds took flight from the distant woods. Wow, it started so quickly? Chapter 157. Fewer enemies, more allies. We have the advantage. 2 minutes ago, 15 veterans quickly dashed into the woods, rapidly dispersing and forming a combat formation to begin their forward search. However, unexpectedly, just as they spread out, Qin Feng emerged from a patch of grass. This patch was actually only about 500 or 600 meters from the entrance. Indeed, while Qin Feng entered the woods 3 minutes early, he hadn't ventured deep inside but instead chose to hide nearby. The most dangerous place is often the safest. The veterans were clearly confident in their judgment, subconsciously believing that Qin Feng would undoubtedly use this precious 3 minutes to sprint desperately. At this moment, creating a contrast could produce remarkable effects. Of course, the hiding spot was carefully selected by Qin Feng, who also took measures to camouflage himself. After all, he was facing seasoned veterans from the elite unit. They might not take him seriously, but Qin Feng certainly could not afford to underestimate them. Overconfidence leads to defeat. Any carelessness on the battlefield could cost many lives. Qin Feng swung his gun behind him and quickly pursued forward. However, he didn't run in a straight line. Instead, he weaved diagonally. He had already surveyed the combat formation that the squad leader had just deployed. If he encountered them head-on, he would end up surrounded. Therefore, Qin Feng planned to first take out the left and right flanks, aiming to reduce their numbers before they could react. Soon, he spotted 2 figures swiftly moving through the woods ahead. It was evident that they maintained an appropriate distance and vigilance while searching. The purpose of this was to support each other in case of danger. Additionally, upon discovering the enemy, both sides could lock onto targets simultaneously. As Qin Feng quickly approached, he removed the water bottle from his waist, gripping the strap tightly in his hand. He then charged towards the rightmost second-level non-commissioned officer with lightning speed. Just as Qin Feng was about to close in within 3 meters, the officer suddenly sensed something was amiss. He turned his head and was startled by the sight of Qin Feng rushing towards him. Damn, this guy is right behind me. He instinctively raised his gun. But before he could pull the trigger, a water bottle came flying towards his head. With a loud clang, the metal bottle struck his helmet. The immense force sent him flying, and he fell to the ground, instantly knocked out. No wonder they say young people have such good sleep quality. They can fall asleep anywhere. Not far away, a first-level soldier was startled by the sudden noise. As he turned to see Qin Feng, he immediately pulled the trigger in that direction. The gunshots startled a flock of birds in the forest. However, Qin Feng had already vanished from sight. Damn it. He actually got away. What is going on over there? Why are there gunshots? At that moment, the voice of squad leader Tang Lei came through the earpiece. The soldier ground his teeth and replied, "Report, squad leader, we've been played. That guy was behind us, just ambushed old Sun." What? Tang Lei's face was filled with shock. But in the next second, he understood. Qin Feng had been lying in wait at the entrance, waiting for the opportunity to attack from behind. This kid is too cunning. Is this what Zhao Pengfei taught him? We're already on our way to your location. How is old Sun? Is he injured or down? Since there is no smoke, I'll go check it out. It should be fine. Suddenly, from behind a nearby tree, Qin Feng's figure lunged out. Caught off guard, he tackled the soldier to the ground, rolling into the grass. The veteran instinctively tried to break free, but then felt something tighten around his neck. Soon, his veins bulged, he struggled to breathe, and his face turned red. Qin Feng used a water bottle to choke him, preventing him from making any sounds for help. I'll say this once. You're already dead, so please follow the exercise rules. After saying that, Qin Feng forcibly triggered his smoke alarm. As white smoke burst out, he released his grip and turned to run. Coughing and gasping, the veteran struggled to catch his breath. Nearly drooling. In a short moment, Tang Lei quickly brought his team over. When they saw the scene, their heads buzzed. What the hell happened? How did you get taken out? Tang Lei asked, exasperated. The soldier rubbed his neck and hoarsely replied, that bastard never left. He jumped out at me when I came to check the situation and wrapped the water bottle around my neck. Cough, he was too ruthless, almost choked me to death. What about Lao Sun? What is his situation? How can he still be sleeping in broad daylight? Upon hearing the inquiry, the soldier quickly explained. Lao Sun was knocked out by Qin Feng with the water bottle. He wasn't sleeping. At that moment, everyone suddenly realized that Qin Feng's water bottle wasn't just for drinking, but was used as a blunt weapon. Team leader Tang Lei looked at the 2 fallen comrades on the ground, his eyelids twitching uncontrollably. He never imagined that Qin Feng would be so cunning and decisive. This was not the behavior of a rookie who had never experienced real combat. Which new recruit would dare to strangle a veteran with a rope? The ruthlessness of this guy far exceeded Tang Lei's expectations. Moreover, to avoid drawing attention with gunfire, Qin Feng even chose to fight with a water bottle. This guy's reading wasn't in vain. He really had skills. But even so, what did it matter? 13 against 1, the advantage was still on their side. Which direction did he run? The squad leader asked. I can't say. That would be against the rules. Tang Lei's eyelids twitched again, almost forgetting that this guy was already dead. Squad leader, he ran this way. Someone found Qin Feng's escape route by following the footprints on the ground. Without hesitation, Tang Lei immediately led his team to pursue him, gripping his gun tightly with a sharp gaze. Qin Feng, you can't escape. This game ends here. What is going on with you guys? They saw a veteran with smoke coming from his head, dragging another person out of the woods. Everyone present immediately gathered around, their faces filled with disbelief. You too. You haven't already been taken out, have you? Isn't it obvious enough? The veteran with smoke coming from his head tossed the other guy to the ground, looking frustrated. At that moment, everyone lost their composure. No one expected that within less than 10 minutes, 2 people would already be out of the game, especially when they heard about Qin Feng's ambush tactics. They looked as if they had seen a ghost. A rookie not only had reverse thinking, but also dared to sneak up from behind and knock someone out. Ha ha. Zhao Pengfei laughed heartily with his hands on his hips. Looking up at the sky, I told you that the soldiers I brought out are not so easy to deal with. Did you see that? Everyone saw it, right? Impressive. Really impressive. Lu Xiaowang looked at the 2 veteran soldiers who had been taken down, almost bursting with excitement. Qin Feng is not only great in combat, but also has excellent practical skills. No wonder he is my idol. I've decided, from now on, he will be my god. And I will worship him every day. The words of the new recruits were like sharp needles, hitting the veterans' faces. Immediately, someone retorted disdainfully. What is so impressive about taking down 2 with a sneak attack? Besides, he is already exposed, and the squad leader has led people to chase him down. This kid won't be able to escape soon. The new recruits are just new recruits. Exposing themselves too early means this battle will end soon. Hearing this, the new recruits collectively rolled their eyes. Even if Qin Feng really lost in the end, he would still have his pride. 15 against 1. And he still managed to take down 2. How could they have the face to say that? Meanwhile, Qin Feng, who was desperately fleeing, had already noticed the pursuers behind him. He also noticed shadows moving on both sides. Are they trying to surround me? However, who is the one being surrounded is still uncertain. With that, Qin Feng leaped and quickly dove into a large thicket, disappearing without a trace. Chapter 158. Was this kid a loach in his previous life? Where is he? How did he vanish? Just moments ago, he was right there. Tang Lei looked around, his face darkening. The area was filled with various weeds and shrubs. In such a place, it wouldn't be easy to hide even a single person, let alone an entire squad. It must be said that Qin Feng was really good at hiding, always running to the densest vegetation. That guy must be hiding around here. Find him for me. Yes. Tang Lei waved his hand, and everyone quickly spread out like a fishing net. Even as they dispersed, they remained vigilant, guns at the ready. Wherever their eyes went, their gun barrels followed, aiming to fire at the first sight of the enemy. Aware of Qin Feng's cunning, they naturally wouldn't let their guard down. At that moment, a soldier suddenly noticed something unusual under a tree not far away. It was already deep winter, and the leaves had long turned yellow and fallen. However, the fallen leaves under the tree ahead were slightly raised. Some were still damp, clearly just turned over from underneath. The soldier squinted, gun in hand, and slowly approached. Come out. Your disguise is too poor, full of flaws. You are way off. Seeing that Qin Feng, hidden under the dry leaves, remained motionless. The soldier frowned slightly, but soon he relaxed. Trying to play dead and hoping to fool us, huh? Indeed, people always hold on to a glimmer of hope. However, the eyes of the veterans are sharp. Any subtle change in the woods is hard to escape their notice. The soldier quietly approached, using the gun barrel to poke at the dried leaves on the ground. Where is everyone? Just as he was in shock, a pair of hands suddenly reached out from the leaves behind him, grabbing his ankles and pulling hard. The sudden feeling of weightlessness startled him. However, the muscle memory from long-term training kicked in, and he instinctively raised his hands in front of him to shield against any impact. But while he could defend himself in front, he couldn't do so from behind. When he hit the ground, he felt a jarring impact on his helmet. The tremendous shock felt like a tightening spell, making him faint from the pain. The noise caught the attention of a companion nearby, who immediately raised his gun to shoot in that direction. Qin Feng, agile as a monkey, rolled behind a tree. A water bottle peeked out from the left side of the trunk, diverting attention while he suddenly dashed to the right. In midair, he aimed and fired. Bang bang bang. A burst of bullets flew, causing the sensor on the other person's gear to vibrate. A cloud of white smoke quickly rose from the helmet, looking almost magical. Over there. The moment he heard the gunfire, Tang Lei swiftly led his team to surround the area. The distance between both sides was only about 100 meters. But Qin Feng was incredibly slippery. After efficiently taking down 2 people, he didn't even look back and dashed into the dense woods. The group behind him kept firing, but the laser-guided bullets lacked penetration, getting blocked by various obstacles. Damn it, this kid is as slippery as an eel. Tang Lei cursed while chasing. And this was during the day. He had managed to ambush and take down 4 people. If it were night and visibility was poor, this kid might have flown away. Crack. One soldier running ahead suddenly stepped on a broken branch during the chase. The next second, a hidden snare tightened around his ankle. Anyone who has tripped while running knows what happens when your legs stop, but your body continues forward due to inertia. Boom. The guy couldn't react in time and crashed face first into the ground, stars flashing before his eyes. Tang Lei, catching up from behind, was nearly wide-eyed at the sight. What the hell? This kid can even set traps. Although it was just a simple, basic snare, the fact that Qin Feng managed to set it up right under their noses showed incredible composure. Tang Lei didn't stop for a moment, not even glancing at the unfortunate soldier caught in the trap, and accelerated forward. At this moment, he no longer underestimated Qin Feng. He was now 100% certain that Qin Feng had real combat experience. However, Tang Lei couldn't understand how a rookie could have jungle combat experience. But he knew he couldn't give Qin Feng any more opportunities. Otherwise, he would keep using ambush tactics to erode their team. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, a volley of bullets came flying towards Tang Lei. He instinctively dove behind a tree to take cover. Looking to the sides, he noticed that he was not alone. Many others were also seeking shelter. Tang Lei pulled out a small mirror from his pocket and aimed it towards the direction of the gunfire. To his surprise, there was a small mound ahead, where Qin Feng was using it as a stronghold to launch his attack. In combat, those who occupy higher ground typically hold the advantage. This is also why snipers and machine gunners often strive to seize elevated positions before a battle begins. Bang, bang, bang. Qin Feng lay on the ground, looking down on the concealed positions of a group of veterans. Anyone who dared to show their head would immediately be met with a hail of bullets. Of course, some were bold enough to try to close the distance by quickly changing their cover. But the end result was that they were met with a burst of bullets that left them incapacitated. Tang Lei put away the small mirror, leaned against the tree trunk, and signaled to the right with a tactical gesture. Several scouts received the signal and quickly slipped into the grass, moving swiftly like snakes, preparing to encircle Qin Feng from behind. Qin Feng had sharp eyes like an eagle and immediately noticed movement in the grass to his right. If he had real ammunition, he could easily force them back with a spray of bullets. However, the laser-guided weaponry he had could not penetrate the underbrush. This was also why he had repeatedly managed to escape by hiding in the grass after ambushes. There were pros and cons. Even if Qin Feng sensed their intent to flank him, he couldn't stop them at that moment. As for abandoning his position and fleeing further back, that was not realistic either. The trees behind him were becoming sparser, and the visibility would become relatively open. If he continued running, he would be left with no way out. Just as Qin Feng's mind raced, contemplating his next move, a voice suddenly called out from ahead. Qin Feng, you really are impressive to take on so many of us by yourself. I underestimated you. But now you have nowhere to run. It's better to surrender willingly. I can give you a quick end and spare you some dignity. Tang Lei's purpose in calling out was twofold: to persuade Qin Feng to surrender and to lower his guard. Seeing that there was no response, Tang Lei furrowed his brows. He wanted to try getting closer to see if he could take him down directly. But as soon as he stepped forward, a volley of bullets came flying towards him. Tang Lei cursed under his breath, thinking, this guy Qin Feng must be crazy. Does he really believe he can wipe us all out by himself? He lowered his voice and called into his earpiece. Hey, have you arrived yet? We're almost there. A few veterans who were flanking from the right quickly emerged from the grass and climbed up the mound from the back. But just as they thought they were about to take down Qin Feng, they were stunned to find that there was no one at the top. No one. That guy isn't here. Not here. Tang Lei, astonished, quickly glanced over. The dark barrel of the gun was still there. How could he not be present? A private picked up the gun on the ground, speechless. He had set a trap with a stone to secure the gun, but the person had already run away. This guy knew we were planning to encircle from behind and took off in advance. Tang Lei was shocked, his jaw nearly hitting the ground. Was this kid born to run? How could he run so fast? But beyond this point was an open area. Where could he escape to? Just then, he suddenly noticed movement in the grass on the left. Before Tang Lei could react, a figure suddenly leaped out like a ghost. At the same time, a size 43 foot was enlarging in Tang Lei's terrified gaze. Chapter 159. Attention, stand at ease, everyone listen up. Another one came out, another one. Lu Xiaowang excitedly pointed at the figures in the woods, shouting with enthusiasm. Everyone followed his pointing direction and their eyelids twitched. It wasn't just one. There was another one behind. These two, combined with the previous ones eliminated, made it the 14th person already. Currently, only squad leader Tang Lei was still holding on, not being eliminated. The third squad leader glanced at his watch. 2 hours and 55 minutes had already passed. In less than 3 hours, Qin Feng had eliminated so many people using various tactics. Such achievements were not merely astonishing, they were truly remarkable. For a new recruit to have such impressive results, even if he exceeded the time limit and couldn't eliminate everyone, he should still be deemed the winner. The words of second squad leader Lu Yong sent a shockwave through everyone. They had almost forgotten that Qin Feng was just a newly assigned recruit. Terrifying, too terrifying. When they were newly assigned, they were treated like dogs by the veterans, timid and afraid to speak loudly. In contrast, Qin Feng, as soon as he donned a bandage, could take down 5 veterans with his bare hands. Moreover, during the jungle training exercise, he had made a whole group of people spin around and had successfully eliminated 14. Such achievements were not only remarkable within the Steel Knife Company, but across the entire brigade. He was a formidable presence. At that moment, everyone began to understand why the company commander and instructor would assign such important tasks to Qin Feng. He indeed had the capability and skill. He is out. Qin Feng is out. Suddenly, someone shouted. Just when everyone was excited, thinking that Qin Feng would finally be eliminated, reality gave them a hard slap in the face. In the distance, in the woods, Qin Feng was striding towards them, carrying someone. As he got closer, everyone could see that he was actually carrying squad leader Tang Lei, who was tied up. At this moment, Tang Lei had a mouthful of grass, and his face was marked with a large footprint. He looked utterly disheveled. In the astonished gazes of everyone, Qin Feng casually dropped the squad leader onto the ground. While drinking from his water bottle and panting heavily, he asked Gu Xiong, "Commander, I should be within the time limit, right?" As the words fell, Gu Xiong was about to lower his head to check the time when the alarm on his watch went off with a series of beeps. 3 hours, just right. That cursed sense of time sent shivers down everyone's spines. In 3 hours, 14 were eliminated, and they even caught a prisoner? Looking at the crutch on Qin Feng's shoulder, all that remained in everyone's eyes was terror. You call this a rookie? This is simply a living nightmare. Ha ha ha, impressive, truly impressive. Zhao Pengfei rushed over and hugged Qin Feng tightly, then proudly showcased him to everyone. Did you see that? This is the soldier old Zhao trained. Don't say 15, even if it were 20, a whole squad. As long as there's enough time, Qin Feng could wipe you all out. I wonder who still dares to look down on him, who dares to say he is just a rookie. The last 6 words were shouted particularly loudly by Zhao Pengfei, especially the word rookie, which he dragged out for emphasis. Everyone present turned red, as if they had been slapped. Wu Jin's feelings were complex. Although he lost to Qin Feng, he was mostly happy. On one hand, this soldier was from Class 6, trained by his old squad leader Zhao Pengfei. On the other hand, he was glad that the Steel Knife Company had such a strong soldier. He believed it wouldn't be long before Qin Feng became the leader, as he had already proven his capability with strength. At this moment, Gu Xiong's face was beaming. He truly hadn't expected Qin Feng to bring him such a big surprise. No wonder during the rank conferral ceremony, Captain Lei Bao made a special trip. They must understand Qin Feng's combat abilities. So, is there anything else to say now? Instructor Guo Haitao said with a smile. Unable to win in combat or professional skills, those who had previously boasted felt their faces turn green, wishing they could find a hole to hide in. They were just bragging, never expecting Qin Feng to really have this ability. Instructor, we were just joking to lighten the mood. Qin Feng not only held no grudges, but also brushed it off with a smile. Moreover, if it weren't for the squad leader holding back during the recent battle, he estimated he would have been eliminated long ago. This statement from Qin Feng provided an exit for the squad leader and spared face for those who had mocked him earlier. They were all comrades in the same unit, seeing each other often, so there was no need to be so absolute with words. Yet, it was this seemingly unremarkable gesture that made everyone completely convinced. Originally, they had prepared themselves for Qin Feng's cold sarcasm and humiliation, but instead, he showed an extraordinary degree of generosity and humility. Therefore, even after being soundly defeated, they felt no resentment towards Qin Feng. Rather, they felt more ashamed of themselves. Qin Feng, a loss is a loss. You don't need to give me an out. After Tang Lei freed himself from his constraints, he snorted and stood up. You are indeed impressive. I respect you. Wholeheartedly. Wu Jin immediately followed suit. So do I. Niu Taijun and others chimed in. The class representative has acknowledged it. How can we dare to disagree? Lu Xiaowang and others looked at him with admiration. Brother Feng. No more words. You are truly amazing. You are our idol. From now on, if you tell us to go east, we will never go west. If you ask us to pull through, we won't back down. As more and more people expressed their agreement, a smile appeared on Qin Feng's face. The military environment is very pure. If you run fast, fight well, and possess exceptional professional skills, you can earn respect. Just like what they say online. As long as you are strong enough, you can smoke the company commander's cigarettes and touch the regiment commander's back. At this moment, Qin Feng cast an inquiring glance at the company commander. Gu Xiong smiled and nodded at him. indicating that he could take charge now without asking for permission. Qin Feng took a deep breath and shouted at everyone, "All assemble." A series of light footsteps sounded. In just a few seconds, everyone formed a square formation in front of Qin Feng. A line to the right. At ease. Attention. At ease. Including Zhao Pengfei and Wu Jin. Everyone stood at ease with their toes pointed. Briefing. Huh. Everyone quickly brought their feet together and stood in a perfect line. Beneath Qin Feng's serious expression, excitement surged within him. Even his clenched fists trembled slightly. This is exhilarating. It's absolutely thrilling. No wonder everyone wants to be an officer. No wonder everyone dreams of being a general. The feeling of issuing commands is simply fulfilling. Just think, if you didn't join the military. No matter how much money you have, you could never experience this feeling. However, Qin Feng did not become complacent due to his temporary authority. Instead, he immediately got to the point. From now on, we have less than 6 days left. In the coming days, I will divide you into 2 teams. As he spoke, Qin Feng raised his hand and made a chopping motion, using the 5th squad as the axis line. We will divide into teams A and B based on this line. For the next 6 days, except for meals and sleep, you will spend every moment in continuous combat training. Hearing this, everyone felt a tightening in their hearts. They had often engaged in combat drills before, but they usually ended on the same day. This continuous 6-day training was indeed a first. Let me emphasize one point. Qin Feng raised a finger and said loudly, "The outcome of the combat will directly affect your 3 daily meals. In simple terms, whoever wins gets to eat. Losers will go hungry." Wow, is it really that outrageous? I like this unique training method. At this moment, everyone not only did not resist Qin Feng's training arrangements, but instead was eager to give it a try. Compared to the monotonous obstacle courses and physical training on the training ground, they preferred this more practical and challenging approach. Moreover, everyone knows that the arrangement made by Qin Feng is aimed at preparing for the confrontation 6 days from now. Only through intense and targeted practice can everyone's combat skills be improved. This will enable the Steel Knife Company to achieve a stunning victory in the upcoming 1v5 match. If they win, other units in the brigade will tremble at the sound of their name. Seeing that no one had any objections, Qin Feng wasted no time. Everyone, prepare quickly. The confrontation officially starts in 10 minutes. Yes, 6 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early that morning, the phones in the offices of the 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 11th companies rang one after another. The company commanders quickly put down the phones and notified the duty personnel to sound the emergency assembly alarm. With sounds resembling air being released, military transport vehicles braked and stopped in the open space next to the shooting range at the rear of the regiment headquarters. The tailgate of the last vehicle was lowered, and soldiers from each company quickly jumped off to assemble and line up. 12:34. The counting voices rang out in succession. After accounting for the numbers, the 5 teams quickly formed a larger formation. Wu Jian, the commander of the 4th company, represented them and quickly ran to salute the regiment commander, Qiu Guohai. Report to the regiment commander. The 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 11th companies are all assembled. Please give instructions. Qiu Guohai returned the salute, at ease. Wu Jian turned around and called for the troops to stand at ease. He then jogged back to the formation, waiting for the regiment commander's speech. Listen up. With a loud bang, everyone quickly brought their feet together and stood at attention. Qiu Guohai looked at the formation and said loudly, "The rules for the confrontation drill will be announced by the division commander when he arrives. For now, I will only mention 2 points. First, I absolutely do not allow anyone to go easy on the Steel Knife Company just because they were once part of our regiment. Personal relationships are private. On the battlefield, as long as they are the enemy, even if it's your own father, you must take them down." Qiu Guohai deliberately used a joking tone to convey the seriousness of the matter. Despite his humorous remarks, everyone maintained a serious expression. Of course, Qiu Guohai's tone softened slightly. If any company performs outstandingly in battle, there will definitely be additional rewards from the regiment. The reward is quite simple, a 10% increase in next year's budget. Upon hearing this, the eyes of the 5 company commanders instantly lit up. Although each company has only about 100 personnel, the annual budget is not a small amount. Currently, many training facilities in the regiment are aging, and the living conditions in barracks are outdated. There is a desire to maintain and repair them. But due to tight finances, there has been no funding. If next year's budget can increase, this issue will no longer be a problem. Even if a company does not need optimization, the funds could be used as welfare subsidies or meal allowances. In any case, this incentive is very appealing. The 5 company commanders exchanged glances, their eyes filled with a hint of tension. Each of them wanted to make a significant contribution in this confrontation. The more they wanted to excel, the fiercer the battle would become. Qiu Guohai raised his second finger and continued. The second point, and the most important one. This confrontation is arranged by the division, and the division commander will be here to watch it in person. Therefore, we not only need to win beautifully, But we must also showcase our regiment's spirit. Let the division commander see that even without the Steel Knife Company, our border defense regiment is still full of iron-willed heroes. Yes, everyone shouted in unison, the battle cry echoing. Qiu Guohai continued loudly. I ask you, after the battle begins, how long will it take to completely annihilate them? 5 hours. The second company commander shouted. At most 5 hours, we will definitely leave not a single bone of the Steel Knife Company. 5 hours is too long. Fourth company, what do you say? 3 hours. 3 hours is enough. Wu Jian, who was called out, immediately responded loudly. But Qiu Guohai smiled at him and asked meaningfully. 3 hours seems a bit long, doesn't it? Wu Jian, feeling guilty, smiled awkwardly and quickly corrected himself. 2 hours. At most 2 hours. With us 5 companies against them. 2 hours is enough to end the battle. I say 1 hour is enough. At that moment, the 7th and 11th company commanders responded loudly together. Satisfied with their answer, Qiu Guohai shot a glare at Wu Jian and then smiled. Ending the battle in 1 hour. This is what you all said. I'll be waiting to see how you perform. After announcing the dismissal, he kept Wu Jian behind to give him some instructions. Then, he gathered the 5 company commanders together to discuss tactics. Why wasn't Qiu Guohai, the regiment commander, coordinating and formulating the tactical plan? The reason was simple. He also wanted to save face. 5 companies attacking one was already an unfair advantage. If he were to step in and act as the commander controlling the situation, he would lose all credibility. Even if they won, it wouldn't earn them a good reputation. After all, this was just a confrontation, not a drill. The 8th company commander said, later, you will advance from the west. And our 8th and 11th companies will come from this side. Is that all right? Everyone replied, no objections, continue. The 4th company commander said, I think we don't need to be so aggressive at the beginning. We can set an ambush first, then let the other 3 companies drive them into my ambush zone. Old Wu, are you trying to take all the credit by luring them into your trap? Not at all. I'm just making a suggestion. If you all have ideas, feel free to share. I think we can focus our firepower for a heavy strike first. Once their numbers dwindle, they will likely panic and scatter, and then we can pursue them separately. All right, that tactic sounds good. I agree. I don't see any major issues with that. Quick and decisive. Old 4. If you want to set an ambush, go ahead with your plan, but if the credit is stolen, don't blame us. Everyone was laughing and joking. But Wu Jian said little, instead glancing at the company commander. He then turned to look at the chief of staff and the regiment commander. It seemed he was deep in thought. Just then, a military vehicle with the division headquarters license plate slowly approached from a distance. The door opened, and a colonel with 2 stripes and 4 stars got out of the car. Upon seeing the newcomer, everyone immediately stopped what they were doing, turned quickly, and raised their arms in salute. Good day, Commander. Qiu Guohai and Chief of Staff Sun Quan hurried over to salute as well. Commander Lu Chong returned the salute and then glanced around. Have Ge Zhiyong and the others not arrived yet? Qiu Guohai shook his head. They should be here soon. Lu Chong snorted, his tone revealing some dissatisfaction. Everyone else is here, and they still haven't arrived. They seem to have a bigger attitude than me. The commander. Qiu Guohai and Sun Quan exchanged awkward glances, neither of them speaking. After all, the Steel Knife Company had broken away from the regiment, so it was natural that they wouldn't say anything derogatory. Moreover, they were not the type to gossip behind others' backs or kick someone when they were down. Hurry and make a call to check where they are. Yes. Sun Quan immediately instructed a staff member to make the call. Just as the call was being dialed, they saw several troop transport vehicles speeding toward them from a distance. Soon, the vehicles came to a halt in front of them. Qiu Guohai smiled and said, Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Everyone immediately turned their attention to the vehicles. However, when they saw the figures jumping out from the cars, they all widened their eyes in fear, showing expressions of disbelief. Chapter 161. Li Jiaxing's surprise. The deputy squad leader is doing so well. The vehicle's tailgate dropped, and groups of figures quickly jumped out from the back. The reason it was groups rather than individuals was that every member of the Steel Knife Company was clad in camouflage gear. Moreover, the camouflage was dirty, covered in leaves, branches, and a thick layer of dust and mud. From a distance, they looked like little moving bushes. Not only that, the soldiers had smeared a thick layer of camouflage paint on their faces. From a distance, even their facial features were hard to distinguish. But what surprised everyone the most was the sharp, aggressive aura they exuded, completely different from the feeling of other companies that had just been pulled out of the dormitories. It was as if they had just come off a fierce battlefield. Form up quickly, Qin Feng shouted in a low voice, and everyone quickly lined up in front of him, starting to report their numbers. After reporting, Qin Feng saluted Ge Zhiyong and handed over command. His authority was granted by the company commander, and he absolutely could not overshadow that. Moreover, in such a formal setting, it was not his place as a new recruit to speak up. So at this moment, he had to remain low-key, essentially knowing his place. Ge Zhiyong had been worried that Qin Feng, being young, might get carried away by the taste of power. Too many people had tried to rush their success and ended up failing miserably. But now it seems that his worries were unnecessary. This guy has no attachment to this power at all and shows no intention of showing off. This is a good thing and will help him go further in the future. Gu Xiong immediately ran up to the commander, stood at attention, and saluted. Reporting to the commander, the Steel Knife Company is fully assembled. Please give instructions. Looking at Gu Xiong, who was also in a dirty combat suit and even had a faint odor, Lu Chang's tone revealed curiosity. With the way you all look, it seems you're well prepared. Gu Xiong puffed out his chest and shouted, we never fight an unprepared battle. Victory is a must, and we will conquer. His loud voice immediately attracted the attention of the other 5 companies. However, the majority of the gazes were filled with mockery. Even a sense of certainty that they had already won. 5 companies against 1. Is there any need to ask where the advantage lies? Yet even so, Gu Xiong still wore a proud and confident expression. Not to mention 5 companies. Even if it were an entire regiment, they would not be afraid. Lu Cheng swept his gaze toward his team, and a smile immediately appeared on his face. As a veteran who had been on the battlefield, he could tell at a glance the changes in the soldiers. Compared to half a month ago when he visited, everyone now exuded a wild and defiant spirit. Especially the fierce eyes that were always alert, resembling wolves competing for prey. But he didn't know that the Steel Knife Company had undergone such a significant transformation entirely thanks to Qin Feng. For 6 days, they had been engaged in continuous combat from morning till night. Some people ate 3 meals a day, while others went hungry for 6 meals over 2 days. For a warm meal, everyone fought with bloodshot eyes. Under such circumstances, Qin Feng would often intervene, disrupting the battle. Those who were shot by him not only had no food, but also faced the punishment of doing 500 push-ups. For a full 6 days, everyone was in a state of heightened tension. Any slight movement would trigger their reflexes, because you could never know whether the next second the one coming out from the grass was an enemy or that unpredictable Qin Feng. They were genuinely scared. Even the 3 squad leaders were driven to the brink of tears by Qin Feng. Sleeping meant keeping one eye open and one eye closed. And even going to the bathroom couldn't exceed 20 seconds. Otherwise, they risked getting ambushed and ending up in a messy situation. Who could endure that? It was only on the way here that he managed to eat a little to replenish his energy and truly closed his eyes for a short rest. Lu Cheng didn't say much and got straight to the point, starting to explain the rules of the confrontation. The rules for this exercise were simple. It was an ambush battle. The Steel Knife Company, while infiltrating behind enemy lines to complete their mission and preparing to return, unfortunately exposed their target and suddenly encountered a large number of enemies surrounding them. For various reasons, you cannot receive any support. The only way to survive is to annihilate all the enemies coming to encircle you. The assessment time is 2 days. Whoever is eliminated first will be deemed the loser. If the time exceeds, the winner will be determined by the casualty ratio. During this period, you are allowed to carry a small amount of water and food, but the use of special vehicles, helicopters, and heavy weaponry is prohibited. Qin Feng listened carefully to the competition rules. He learned from the company commander that the division commander was a pragmatic person. Therefore, the rules of engagement were quite straightforward and harsh. Modern warfare is no longer the kind of back-and-forth defense where one digs a hole and buries some soil. Most conflicts are local frictions. So small units engaging in infiltration operations have become the mainstream. Infiltrating behind enemy lines to sabotage crucial facilities, gather important intelligence, mark coordinate locations, and provide more precise coordinate guidance for missile and aircraft strikes, etc. The division commander assumed a situation where targets are exposed and isolated without support. This is a battle where it's either you die or I die. Only by annihilating all enemies can one escape. After explaining the rules, Lu Cheng called over the armorer to distribute specialized training equipment to everyone. Moreover, he gave everyone 10 minutes to briefly discuss tactical strategies. Everyone gather around. Qin Feng raised his fist and shouted. All members of the Steel Knife Company quickly surrounded him. After 6 days together, everyone had come to respect Qin Feng. Thus, his orders were almost equivalent to those of the company commander. Even Gu Xiong expressed that in certain situations, even he, the company commander, had to listen to Qin Feng. This scene, however, left soldiers from surrounding companies puzzled, because they were painted heavily with face paint. They did not recognize Qin Feng and naturally had no idea who this person issuing commands to the entire company was. Yet, a few individuals recognized Qin Feng's identity through his tall stature and loud voice. Among them were Li Jiaxing, assigned to the 4th company, and Qi Meng, assigned to the 2nd company, as well as 2 new recruits from the 11th company. Class Vice, that is the Class Vice. Li Jiaxing excitedly grabbed Zhou Shangfei's arm and shouted. Zhou Shangfei was confused. What Class Vice? Isn't the Class Vice not here? Li Jiaxing quickly shook his head. Not this Class Vice, it's my brother Feng, the Vice from my new recruits. You mean Qin Feng, where is he? As the most outstanding recruit from the new recruits, Zhou Shangfei was particularly attentive to Qin Feng, the one in the middle, speaking to others. That's him. Zhou Shangfei squinted his eyes and looked over, and the next second exclaimed, "What the heck? It really is that brat Qin Feng. What is going on? Why does it look like he is issuing commands?" The second company was closest to the steel knife company, so Yang Kaifeng and Qi Ming had already recognized Qin Feng's identity. "This is unbelievable." Yang Kaifeng scratched his head, filled with questions. Even if Qin Feng was impressive, he was just a new recruit, right? How could they have the ability or the qualification to give orders to a sharp unit like the steel knife company? Compared to Yang Kaifeng's shock, Qi Ming was so excited he could almost shout. The class vice really is impressive wherever he goes. He just joined the company and is still an unknown rookie. Has Qin Feng already started giving orders to the entire company? And looking at those veterans in the steel knife company, they seem to listen to him quite well. This is unbelievable. He wouldn't even dare to dream of such a thing. However, at this moment, both Yang Kaifeng and Zhou Shangfei have their eyes fixed on Qin Feng, feeling a vague sense of unease. As grassroots leaders from the previous recruit company, they have had considerable interaction with Qin Feng. They know that this guy is exceptionally intelligent and quite cunning. Although they don't understand how Qin Feng ended up as the chief instructor, they believe it's not a good thing. Standing from their own perspective, after some thought, they decide to report the situation upward. Unfortunately, the various company commanders only smiled lightly and did not take it seriously. They even thought that Ge Zhiyong was just panicking and making a desperate move. Unable to find someone suitable to take charge, he decided to arrange for a recruit to lead the way. Even if they lost, they could shift the blame easily and save face. Little did they know, their underestimation would lead to the 5 companies suffering greatly in the upcoming confrontation and paying a heavy price. Chapter 162. Brothers, keep you in mind. You push brothers into the ditch, my deputy. Brother Feng, my good brother Feng. Brother Feng over there, look over here, look over here, look over here. Please don't ignore me. In the team, Li Jiaxing and Qi Ming were making faces at Qin Feng, even shaping their hands like a horn to quietly call out to him. For Li Jiaxing and the others, Qin Feng was not only a good deputy, but also a great older brother. Now that they meet again, their older brother has grown into a big figure. After they joined the company, they had been busy washing socks and fetching hot water for the veterans. Qin Feng had already started giving orders to the entire company. This sense of life's contrast was truly fascinating. The more this was the case, the prouder they felt for Qin Feng, and the more they felt honored to be associated with him. 3 months in the recruit company, a lifetime of brotherhood. No matter how impressive Qin Feng is, they all share the same recruit company, the same squad, and are comrades who live and die together. However, Qin Feng felt a bit awkward at this moment because these guys seem to overlook an important point. We are currently on the opposing side. How can you all be so happy and excited? How am I supposed to take action later? These are life and death comrades. Increase the stakes, it has to be worth it. Qin Feng could only helplessly turn around, give them a simple wave, and force a somewhat awkward smile. Receiving Qin Feng's response, the group became even more excited. Like starstruck fans, almost ready to cheer him on with support sticks. Ge Zhiyong also noticed Li Jiaxing and their excited reactions. So he patted Qin Feng on the arm and comforted him. Don't feel any psychological burden. It's just a confrontation. It's not like we're really going to battle. If you really can't bring yourself to do it later, just let me handle it. Qin Feng nodded gratefully. Then later, make sure to shoot a few more times, preferably 2 shots to the chest and 1 to the head, so they can leave a bit more peacefully. Ge Zhiyong's eyelids twitched. 2 shots to the chest and 1 to the head. Are you even speaking human language? How can someone with such a cold mouth say such chilling words? The whistle blew, and everyone gathered to form their ranks again. Lu Chong stood at the front and said to the steel knife company, I allow you to enter the woods 10 minutes early to prepare. Then he turned his gaze to the other 5 companies. After that, 1 company can go in every 5 minutes. Any questions? No. As soon as he finished speaking, Ge Zhiyong waved his hand, leading everyone to quickly charge into the woods from the side slope. In no time, they vanished without a trace. As soon as the steel knife company left, everyone in the second company began their final preparations. Meanwhile, Qiu Guohai invited the commander into a room next to the shooting range. This room, originally a storage room beside the range, had been cleared out and furnished with a few chairs and a television. Commander, please rest here for a moment while I check on the drone's adjustments. Later, we can clearly see their battle footage from this room. Go ahead. At this moment, drone technology was still in its early stages, so connecting the devices required some preparation time. After Qiu Guohai came out, he inquired about the technician's readiness. He then called the 4th company and 8th company commanders aside. Commander, what do you need? Wu Jian asked. Qiu Guohai smiled at the two. Has Ge Zhiyong approached you two before? Their expressions froze for a moment, but quickly masked their reactions. No, that is not true. Seeing their guilty looks, Qiu Guohai rolled his eyes. All right, stop pretending. The chief of staff has already guessed this. Ge Zhiyong used to be close with you two in the regiment, so it's expected he would come to you. Besides, one company against our 5 companies. We also feel it's not very honorable. Chief of Staff, Commander, what do you mean? The 8th company commander asked tentatively. Our opinion is that it can be even less honorable. The Chief of Staff, Sun Quan, revealed a mischievous smile. This left the 2 commanders confused. Why does the leader speak so cryptically? They felt their brains were a bit overwhelmed. Sun Quan smiled and said, what we mean is to let you 2. After hearing the Chief of Staff's words, the 2 instantly looked a bit pale. Chief of Staff, isn't this a bit too insidious? Sun Quan shot them a glare. In warfare, deception is key. Qiu Guohai also snorted coldly. If either of you dares to show any leniency, be prepared to face the consequences when you return. Do you understand? Yes, the 2 replied helplessly. No one expected the Chief of Staff to be so cunning. Even accounting for this, the Steel Blade Company can only rely on themselves now. Not only can they not afford to hold back, but they also have to find a way to outsmart Ge Zhiyong. Meanwhile, a military vehicle slowly approaches from a distance. The scene of several people conversing is clearly seen by the late-arriving instructor, Gua Haitao. As a civilian staff member, he does not participate in this confrontation. He will stay on site and observe the battle alongside Qiu Guohai and the others as the representative of the Steel Blade Company. However, he never expected to encounter such a setback upon arrival. Gua Haitao is unaware of what they are discussing, but he can infer from their demeanor that something has likely gone wrong. He looks towards the woods on the back mountain, clenches his fists, and feels a mix of emotions. The people have already set off, and now he can't even get in touch with them. Meanwhile, the company commander and Qin Feng are still in the dark, thinking they can take on 3 opponents. Old Gu, Qin Feng. The 4th and 8th companies are likely to betray us, so you must be extremely careful. At the same time, 10 minutes have passed. The 2nd company commander quickly leads his men towards the back mountain. The Steel Blade Company, being the original big brother of the regiment, is a force to be reckoned with. He plans to pursue them while maintaining distance to avoid direct confrontation. As long as they can delay until the 2nd team enters the woods, they can launch a pincer attack. Suddenly, a large number of figures rush out from both sides. The 2nd Company's soldiers don't even have time to react or fully form their tactical formation before being caught in a double ambush. Take cover, quickly. The 2nd Company commander roars, dropping to the ground. The others immediately use the terrain to prepare for counterattack. Seeing this, Qin Feng smiles and says retreat. He then leads his men to withdraw rapidly, showing no intention of fighting back. Watching his own soldiers' heads popping up like targets, while the enemy quickly disappears. The 2nd Company commander slams his fist into the ground in frustration. These bastards, they ambush us right from the start. How shameless. Commander, should we pursue? Asks squad leader Yang Kaifeng, exasperated. Pursue my ass. The 2nd Company commander curses back. The 4th Company won't arrive for another 5 minutes. How can we take them on? They want us to chase them. Quickly account for the casualties. Yes, Yang Kaifeng replies, feeling utterly frustrated. Who would have thought Ge Zhiyong would be so cunning? Who would have thought that as soon as they entered the woods, they would be hit so hard? And now, they can't even dare to move until the other teams arrive. This is just too damn frustrating. At this moment, Qi Ming sits on the ground, disheartened, with wisps of smoke rising from his head. He had originally hoped to showcase his skills in the confrontation, but ended up being taken out right at the start. Moreover, he clearly saw that it was his most respected Qin Feng who fired the shots, 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. Enough to make even the Grim Reaper shake his head. Qi Ming hugs his knees and suddenly bursts into tears, feeling wronged. Brother, I kept you in my heart, but you kicked me into the ditch. The vice squad leader, your approach is too harsh. At least let me live a little longer. Chapter 163, Brothers Bach, avenge me. TSK. In the forest, shadows darted quickly. It was the reconnaissance unit that had just successfully ambushed and was rapidly escaping. Looking beside him at Ge Zhiyong, who seemed to be in pain like he had a toothache, Qin Feng couldn't help but feel annoyed. Squad leader, did you get something stuck in your teeth? Why do you keep smacking your lips? It's nothing, just a little sigh. Ge Zhiyong replied with a meaningful smile. They say when fellow villagers meet, they get teary-eyed. I didn't expect you to just go in with a burst of fire, not holding back at all. Hearing this, Lu Xiaoguang, who was following closely behind Qin Feng like a little tail, immediately asked curiously, Squad leader, were there any acquaintances among those taken down in the 2nd unit just now? Not just acquaintances. That was a good comrade from when Qin Feng was in basic training, someone he fought alongside. Ge Zhiyong deliberately elongated the word good comrade, teasing him for fun. Upon hearing this, Lu Xiaoguang exclaimed in surprise. His admiration for Qin Feng only deepened. To be so decisive against an old comrade. Not hesitating for even a second. Truly someone who can achieve great things. This must be noted down. This is what it means to be someone who accomplishes great tasks. Not fussing over trivial matters. Listening to Lu Xiaoguang's flattery, Ge Zhiyong was taken aback. You brat, is your head stuck up your rear? Is that what I meant? Qin Feng was also a bit speechless. He didn't want to take down Qi Meng. It was just that the kid was standing too far out earlier. Besides, personal relationships are personal, but right now they are in a hostile situation. If he didn't take action himself, would he just watch his good brother get shot down? Whether leaving early or late, it was all about leaving. Qin Feng was purely being helpful. Just then, he suddenly stopped. Seeing him halt, Gu Xiong quickly raised his fist to signal everyone to stop. What is on your mind? Qin Feng pointed to a nearby area that was slightly more open but overgrown with weeds. I want to set up an ambush here. Isn't that a bit too risky? Gu Xiong frowned immediately. Starting with confrontation and constantly stirring things up could easily lead to being targeted. Qin Feng understood his concerns. Right now, with our current strength, we can't confront them head-on. The only thing we can do is keep setting ambushes and find ways to gradually wear down their living forces. Once we manage to reduce them down to just 2 companies, we might be able to go all out. Gu Xiong didn't respond, but the vast majority of those behind him expressed their agreement. In a situation where enemy and ally strength is so disparate, risks must be taken. If they only keep running, they would definitely be worn down by the enemy in the end. All right, let us do it your way. Gu Xiong no longer hesitated. Fortune favors the bold. Let us hit them a few times first. With their opinions aligned, Qin Feng immediately began arranging for people to set traps nearby. Everyone was quite familiar with this task. After all, they had gone through a full 6 days of confrontation training. In terms of camouflage and setting traps, they were already extremely proficient. Except for a few who were setting bait traps, most of them were making simple snares as per Qin Feng's requirements. Hurry up. We only have about 5 minutes left. After we finish, hide on both sides immediately. Under Qin Feng's urging, everyone accelerated their pace. The 6 days of jungle confrontation training had given them a natural adaptability to the forest. Additionally, everyone was already quite familiar with the environment of the back mountain, as they had conducted confrontations there before. Therefore, this battle actually provided a certain buff for the Steel Knife Company. However, relying solely on this was not enough to win the battle. They still needed to find a way to divide and conquer, taking them out one by one. As for the 4th Company and the 8th Company, Qin Feng didn't have much confidence either. After all, people's thoughts were always changing. If they pretended to agree but were secretly planning something else, it would be troublesome. Brother Feng, can I ask you something? Qin Feng's thoughts were interrupted by Lu Xiaowan's question. What is up? Why don't we set up some more powerful traps? Lu Xiaowan continued to work, but curiously asked. I've seen in TV dramas and novels that those traps can take down people in one go. Qin Feng understood that he meant the snares were too simple. To put it bluntly, this was just a backpack rope tied into a live knot on the ground. As long as someone stepped on it, they would suddenly trip while running and fall. However, compared to those traps that could bind people, this seemed rather ordinary. Then, 2 more recruits raised the same question, asking if they could create something that would spring out from the grass and knock people away, or a large net that could rise from the ground and trap a large group of people, or even something that could hoist someone upside down into a tree, like a swing. Qin Feng chuckled at these naive suggestions. Such things were not realistic in actual combat. They were just fabricated ideas from dramatic shows and fictional novels. In real situations, even if you had the materials, when would you have the time to set up those things? It was not like they were performing some treasure hunting adventure. Hey, what is going on with you guys? The 4th Company leader, Wu Jian, had just entered the forest with his team when he encountered the disheveled 2nd Company members. The 2nd Company leader walked over with a frustrated expression. Don't mention it. That scoundrel Gu Xiong didn't even run inside. He was just hiding at the entrance to ambush us. You know, there's only one way from the shooting range to the back mountain. We hadn't even spread out yet when we fell into the ambush. We lost over 20 people just like that. Then why didn't you chase after them? What are you doing here? The 2nd Company leader looked at Wu Jian as if he were an idiot. Aren't you just asking what you already know? Wu Jian was momentarily stunned and then smiled wryly, patting his head. Originally in the team, the Steel Blade Company ranked at the top in terms of strength. Their individual combat tactics and physical abilities far surpassed other units, which was quite normal. The 2nd Company, as an armored infantry unit, usually relied on infantry fighting vehicles and operated in flat, open terrain. Suddenly sending them into the mountains and forests, they were no match for the Steel Blade Company. However, the company commander of the 2nd Company was cautious and sent a few scouts to follow from a distance, but they were all discovered and eliminated by Qin Feng. At this moment, Li Jiaxing also noticed the utterly dejected Qi Meng. The white smoke had dissipated, and only after inquiring did he learn that Qi Meng had already been killed. Damn, that was quick. You didn't even fire a shot, did you? Li Jiaxing asked. Qi Meng removed the magazine, and not a single bullet was missing. Uffed. Li Jiaxing couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Back when they were in basic training, Qi Meng was so fierce that he even dared to challenge the squad leader. How did he become so weak after joining the unit? He got taken out without firing a single shot. That's just pathetic. Definitely a runner. Qi Meng looked aggrieved. Jiaxing, you must be careful of Qin Feng later. He is really ruthless. What's wrong? Li Jiaxing was taken aback. Then he suddenly realized. Wait, you weren't taken out by Feng Ge, were you? Yeah, he was really fierce. I didn't even react, and a burst of bullets came my way. I suspect he shot half a magazine at me. I was hit like a beehive. As Qi Meng recalled the scene, tears streamed down his face, looking as pitiful as a wronged bride. Li Jiaxing patted him with a smile. Oh, Feng Ge definitely didn't he mean it. We have such a strong bond. How could he do that? You probably just accidentally ran into his line of fire. Trust me, I'll take care of it for you later and get my revenge on Feng Ge. Qi Meng sniffed a couple of times, grabbing his shoulder. Good brother, I'm counting on you. He took out a magazine from his pocket and placed it carefully in Li Jiaxing's hand. When you see him, you must empty this magazine at him to relieve my hatred. Li Jiaxing nodded emphatically. Don't worry, I've got this. Meanwhile, a drone was hovering above, with its camera pointed down, transmitting the footage back. In the lounge, Xiao Guohai's expression immediately turned sour. He never expected Ge Xiong to come in and take out more than 20 people right away. The key point was that after the second company was ambushed, they didn't dare to pursue. This was simply embarrassing. On the contrary, Guohai Tao was all smiles. What's this? This is what we call a victory right from the start. Strike and run, no dragging things out. It's all about the thrill. However, when he saw the remaining units entering the back mountain in the footage, he couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. Chapter 164. You're so bad. I really like it. Second company commander, any updates? Not yet. How about your seventh company? Same here. Those guys are really good at hiding. They can disappear without a trace. They might be decent at playing hide and seek, but they can't come up with anything else. The second company commander put down the walkie-talkie, feeling a simmering frustration within. Half an hour ago, the second company was ambushed. He thought they would quickly find the culprits and take revenge. However, after searching for a long time, they couldn't find a single clue. If he didn't manage to save face, he would definitely get an earful from the battalion commander afterward. After all, the division commander was personally overseeing this confrontation. Losing face like this would be unacceptable. If the battalion commander spared him, it would truly be a miracle. Commander, at this moment, the nearby platoon leader, Yang Kaifeng, hesitantly asked, we promised the battalion commander to resolve the battle within an hour. But now it's been over half an hour, and we haven't even found a shadow of the enemy. The second company commander waved his hand dismissively. You can listen to that casually. But there's no need to take it too seriously. The Steel Knife Company is not easy to deal with. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been separated out. Besides, the division commander has given us 2 days. We'll follow whoever has more authority. Yang Kaifeng nodded awkwardly, almost taking it too seriously. However, this also reflected the fact that their opponents were indeed formidable. The second company continued to spread out and search, but they still found nothing. Just as they moved away, 2 patches of dry grass on the ground suddenly shifted. Once the area was clear, the grass sprang to life. Qin Feng, dressed in camouflage, crouched down and said to the nearby platoon leader, Tang Lei, inform Lu Yong and the others. We'll launch another wave soon. Tang Lei was momentarily stunned. Are we still targeting the second company? Qin Feng turned to look at him. Is there a problem? Tang Lei felt a bit awkward. I thought maybe we could change targets. The 11th company seems to be nearby. We could hit another squad. Qin Feng shook his head. No need. Out of these 5 companies, the second company is the weakest. Let's focus on squeezing this soft target. Tang Lei felt a mix of amusement and exasperation. The second company commander had already taken a major hit, and he would definitely face criticism after the battle. Yet, they were still intent on taking advantage of them, which felt a bit cruel. But he quite liked it. Tang Lei immediately took out the walkie-talkie and notified Lu Yong's side to prepare and act as soon as they received the signal. Let us go? Qin Feng waved his hand and quietly followed Tang Lei. Before long, they spotted the figures of the second company. The enemy had already taken their positions, and with just a command, they could launch an attack. Let them wait, we'll strike first. Hearing Qin Feng's words, Tang Lei was perplexed. Us? But there are only the 2 of us. We can't even stir up a splash. You don't need to worry about that. Just do as I say. Make some noise and throw a few grenades. Qin Feng didn't have time to explain further. After finishing, he rushed to the left, gun drawn. Although Tang Lei didn't fully understand, he obeyed immediately. Ge Xiong had already instructed that Qin Feng's orders were to be followed. Moreover, after spending so many days with him, he knew Qin Feng had real skills. He definitely has his reasons for doing this. So, Tang Lei dashed to the right. The gunfire erupted suddenly, and several people had smoke rising from their heads after just one encounter. With the explosion of a few grenades, everyone in the second company was alerted. Damn it, when did these guys sneak around to the back? The company commander, eager for revenge, had not yet figured out the specific situation. He ordered a counterattack, ready to eliminate the enemy in the rear completely. As the soldiers from the second company seemed to be chased like they had stepped on a tail, Qin Feng immediately instructed Tang Lei to run for it without thinking. It was precisely because of the company commander's reckless pursuit that their formation began to get a bit chaotic. The wide-open rear gave them a chance to exploit. Bang, bang, bang. The dense gunfire erupted from the rear. Squad leader Lu Yong led more than 20 men in a fierce assault on their back. The sudden encounter threw the second company into disarray, forcing them to quickly find cover. Seeing white smoke billowing from his own team, the company commander was almost furious to the point of exploding. Counterattack, quickly find cover, and retaliate. Under his command, the remaining soldiers immediately used the terrain to launch a counterattack. But he never expected that the enemy had no intention of continuing the fight. They took advantage of the situation and immediately fled. This kind of behavior, like a scoundrel who flirts and then runs away, made the company commander feel nauseated. They need to chase them down, get after them, and finish them off. 7th Company, 11th Company, where the hell are you? I've spotted them in the pine forest to the northwest. The company commander's eyes were as red as a rabbit's as he desperately followed behind. While chasing, he cursed incessantly. Damn it, why is the wool only for me to pull? Why are they only targeting my company? So rude. Do they really think my company is an easy target? Before the support team could arrive, the soldiers of the 2nd Company were already furiously pursuing. Killing is just part of the game, but being provoked like this time and again, no one could stand it. Moreover, they just lost another 20 to 30 men. Adding to the previous losses, they were almost half a company down. Not willing to lose face, this grudge must be avenged. Meanwhile, Qin Feng took a shortcut and quickly met up with Lu Yong and the others. Thanks to the system's support, running this distance wasn't a big problem for him. But it was tough for Tang Lei, who was almost panting like a dog. This kind of fighting style was too exhausting. If there was a next battle, he swore he wouldn't team up with Qin Feng again. Damn, I've been hit. Niu Taijun, the one with the worst stamina, was running the slowest. He fell to the back and got shot. Along with Niu Taijun, 3 or 4 others were also hit by stray bullets. This was something Qin Feng had anticipated. In war, how could there be no casualties? Even if they succeeded in the ambush, there would definitely be losses on their side, which was unavoidable. Seeing that some members of the Steel Knife Company had been eliminated, the pursuing 2nd Company immediately became more energized, as if they had been injected with adrenaline. Qin Feng glanced back at the people chasing them and quietly said, "Watch out ahead, run according to the marked positions, and be sure not to step wrong." Got it. This area was overgrown with weeds, and after setting up traps, they had to mark their locations. Otherwise, it was likely that even their own people could fall victim. Soon, under Qin Feng's leadership, everyone safely passed through the area. At the same time, Ge Jiong, who had set up an ambush on both sides, was also ready with his weapons. Suddenly, during the pursuit, the 2nd Company leader felt something tighten around his ankle. Before he could react, his upper body was propelled forward by inertia, crashing to the ground and landing awkwardly. One after another, people fell into traps, hitting the ground hard. Some unfortunate souls triggered hidden explosives, causing immediate explosions. Realizing they had fallen into a trap, the entire 2nd Company went into chaos, and everyone became flustered. Attack! With Qin Feng's command, everyone quickly uncovered their disguises and unleashed their firepower on the panicked members of the 2nd Company. Many wanted to fight back, but their feet were ensnared by ropes, leaving them no chance to evade. Some were even directly treated as live targets, and in a short time, 30 or 40 people were shot, their heads smoking from the impact. After emptying a magazine, Qin Feng quickly reloaded and ran. Retreat, retreat. Reinforcements are coming. Scatter and run in different directions. With his command, everyone instantly broke into smaller groups, scattering through the woods like dandelion seeds blown by the wind. The reinforcements that arrived later wanted to pursue, but found it impossible to do so. In the end, they only managed to catch 3 or 4 slow-moving individuals. Damn it, it's one thing to bully me alone, but now they're setting traps. The 2nd Company leader, completely defeated, untied the rope around his leg and smashed his helmet on the ground in frustration. The late-arriving leaders of the 7th and 11th Companies looked at the scene before them, feeling equally disheartened. How can these guys run so fast? They always hit and run. Guerrilla warfare. The 11th Company leader took a deep breath and said sternly, "We can't keep going like this. Otherwise, we might be picked off one by one." The 7th Company leader nodded and immediately contacted the 4th and 8th Companies. Upon receiving the news, they were also greatly shocked. Everyone speculated that the opposing side must have undergone extensive jungle combat training. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to fight so smoothly. After the Steel Knife Company scattered, they would surely find a place to regroup. Right now, our top priority is to locate them. The 4th Company leader, Wu Jian, said coldly, "Our 4th and 8th Companies will set an ambush at XXX. Once you find their traces, do whatever it takes to get people there. Are you sure they will head your way?" The 7th Company leader questioned. Wu Jian smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, based on my understanding of Ge Jiong, they will definitely come. When the time comes, I will capture them all." Chapter 165. Commander, can you be a bit steadier like Qin Feng? Well done. I can't believe they thought of using guerrilla tactics. Impressive. In the lounge next to the shooting range, Lu Chong held a teacup, smiling as he watched the footage returned by the drone, his face filled with joy. Initially, he thought that the Steel Knife Company would be at a disadvantage in this confrontation. However, reality exceeded his expectations. The Steel Knife Company not only took the initiative to attack multiple times, but also maintained stability amidst the chaos. After depleting their resources, they would not linger in battle, but would swiftly retreat. They almost perfectly embodied the guerrilla warfare tactics, truly a veteran unit from the anti-Japanese period. The core tactical concept of retreat when the enemy advances, pursue when the enemy retreats, disrupt when the enemy is stationed, and strike when the enemy is tired was on full display. Aside from the division commander, Gua Haitao, who was accompanying him to observe, also wore a delighted expression. Watching the Steel Knife Company succeed in repeated ambushes, achieving maximum benefits with minimal sacrifices, he couldn't be happier. At the same time, he was greatly impressed by Qin Feng's command ability. If it weren't for his leadership in executing lightning-fast strikes, it would have been impossible to severely damage the second company and achieve such results. Xiaogua, Lu Chong said with a hint of confusion as he leaned closer to the screen, focusing on a figure in the footage. The one leading your company. Why does he not seem much like Guzhio? Gua Haitao immediately replied with a smile. Report to the commander. The one currently commanding the entire company is indeed not the company commander, but a new recruit from our unit. A new recruit? Lu Chong's eyes were filled with suspicion, thinking he was joking. But Qiu Guohai beside him couldn't hold back. Isn't this pure insult? Gua Haitao, are you exaggerating? A new recruit can command the entire company? Are you saying that our entire second company was defeated under the command of a new recruit from your unit? Do you think anyone would believe that? The chief of staff, Sun Quan, remained silent but furrowed his brows slightly. He had a bold guess in mind, but felt it was somewhat unrealistic. That kid, no matter how outstanding his abilities, was just a new recruit and couldn't possibly have the capability to command the entire company. Besides, he had just joined the unit and hadn't learned all the necessary skills yet. Unless Ge Zhiyong had lost his mind, how could he possibly make such a foolish decision? Gua Haitao smiled slightly. Commander Qiu, don't be angry. I really didn't mean to belittle you. In fact, our company commander has indeed delegated authority to a new recruit. A week ago, Qin Feng started training with our entire company, and right now, he is the one commanding the troops in battle. Upon hearing this, everyone was left in shock, speechless. Even Commander Lu Chong wore an expression of disbelief. He knew about this new recruit, who had earned first and second-class merits during basic training, showcasing exceptional personal abilities. For the sake of this soldier, Ge Zhiyong had almost trampled the threshold of the division headquarters. Finally, I don't even know where he got his home address from. Almost every morning and evening, they were blocked at his doorstep, as if they were tailing him. Lu Chong was truly frightened by the surveillance and ultimately had no choice but to agree to give this soldier to him. However, he never expected that Ge Zhiyong would actually delegate power to cultivate Qin Feng. Moreover, it seemed that this kid Qin Feng was indeed performing exceptionally well. How interesting. So interesting. This trip was truly worth it, haha. A new soldier fresh from training could actually lead troops into battle and flexibly apply various tactics. Even some old soldiers were no match for him. This kid Qin Feng was indeed remarkable. Listening to the commendations from his superior, Gua Haitao was beaming with joy. Qin Feng was a soldier from the Steel Blade Company, so praising him was equivalent to praising the Steel Blade Company itself. In contrast, Qiu Guohai looked as if he had eaten a dead fly, feeling uncomfortable. If it were Ge Zhiyong leading the troops and achieving such results, he could somewhat accept it. After all, that person was a top graduate from a military academy. But to think that it was Qin Feng who led the soldiers to this point? Although he knew that Qin Feng was talented and wanted to bring him to the 402nd Regiment, after all, that kid was just a fresh recruit. Qiu Guohai couldn't understand how, without anyone noticing, this kid had rocketed to a level that even he couldn't comprehend. Regardless, there were indeed too many problems within the second company in this battle. Staring at the figure of the second company commander on the screen, Qiu Guohai clenched his fists tightly. He even began to doubt whether that person truly had the ability to hold the position of company commander. Being bullied repeatedly by a new recruit. What had all those years in military school amounted to? Humph. The situation for the Steel Blade Company might not be optimistic moving forward. Our remaining 4 companies are all at full strength. As long as they don't act separately and give any opportunities for us to pick them off one by one, Qin Feng would likely have no way to counter them. Gua Haitao was dissatisfied but didn't say much due to the hierarchy. After all, what Qiu Guohai said was not untrue. The remaining 4 companies had already started to band together. Moreover, judging by the movements of the 4th company, it seemed they were planning something big. Remembering the earlier scene, Gua Haitao's expression darkened, and he couldn't help but start to worry. The plan had changed. The 4th and 8th companies were likely to defect. Qin Feng, you must be sharp and not fall into their trap. If you're gone, With Gu Xiong's wooden head, he won't be able to manage anything, and then our Steel Blade Company will truly be finished. Huff, huff. I can't run anymore. Commander, let us take a break. I really can't hold on. Gu Xiong leaned against a tree, breathing heavily. He looked back to confirm that there were no pursuers, then signaled everyone to rest in place. At this moment, everyone felt a sense of relief, collapsing onto the ground, exhausted to the point of nearly losing their heads, gasping for breath. Earlier, after ambushing the second company, their team had split into two groups. One team is led by Gu Xiong, and the other by Qin Feng. The purpose of this approach is naturally to reduce exposure and preserve strength as much as possible. However, during this time, Gu Xiong discovered the isolated members of the 7th Squad and thought of trying to replicate a previous tactic. He wanted to see if they could eliminate a dozen or 20 opponents in one go. To his surprise, the other side was already on guard, and as soon as Gu Xiong made a move, it triggered a counterattack. Moreover, the gunfire attracted a large number of reinforcements from the surroundings. Left with no choice, Gu Xiong had to lead everyone in a desperate escape. Fortunately, Qin Feng arrived in time to provide support, helping to draw some of the fire away. Otherwise, everyone present, including the squad leader, would have been in serious trouble. Quickly drinking water to replenish their strength, they had to continue their journey in 3 minutes. What? Still running? What do you mean what? Our target has been exposed, and there's a risk of being surrounded at any moment. Upon hearing the squad leader's words, everyone's faces immediately turned as grim as if they had been waxed. If it weren't for the earlier failed ambush, they wouldn't have been chased around like this. On the other hand, Qin Feng's side had no issues at all, maintaining a steady rhythm. This made everyone unable to help but grumble internally. Squad leader, when can you be more composed like Qin Feng? Can't you stop being so impatient? You can't even understand how to copy the homework after so many years in military school. Tang Lei even regretted not following behind Qin Feng. Although they were also fleeing and hiding, at least it wouldn't be as passive as it was now. Originally a team of nearly 60, they had dwindled to only about 40 after running this way. They were afraid that if they continued to follow the squad leader, they wouldn't take down many enemies but would end up sacrificing 10 teammates over 100 kilometers. Gu Xiong sat on a rock, pretending to drink water, feeling a bit embarrassed inside. He didn't understand why this tactic worked for Qin Feng, but turned into a disaster for him. As the sun set, the light in the woods was visibly dimming. Looking at the tired faces of everyone, Gu Xiong knew that continuing to run like this wasn't a solution. They needed to shake off the pursuers completely and find a place to rest and re-strategize. All right, let's move forward, follow me. Upon hearing Gu Xiong's words, everyone instinctively resisted a bit. Squad leader, you're not planning to pull off another risky move, are you? We absolutely cannot. The enemy is already grouped together, and given our current state, going in would mean certain death. How about we think of a way to meet up with Qin Feng? I think it would be safer to listen to his advice. Gu Xiong felt a burning sensation on his face. Damn it, I've only led you into one pitfall. Can't you show a bit more trust and understanding? The sky was getting dark, and he was preparing to find a place for everyone to rest for a bit. After meeting up with Qin Feng, they could discuss the next steps. Squad leader is wise. Without further ado, Gu Xiong led them in a specific direction. Once they got there, the problem should hopefully be manageable, with the help of that guy Wu Jian providing cover. The others in the company wouldn't be able to find them even if they racked their brains. That's why having acquaintances is beneficial when it comes to critical moments. You can always rely on good brothers. Meanwhile, on a raised earth mound 500 meters away, a reconnaissance soldier from the 4th Company put down his binoculars and immediately picked up the radio. He reported to the company commander that they had discovered the trail of the Steel Blade Company, with about 40 people. Given their direction of movement, they should be heading towards your side and will arrive in no more than 20 minutes. Good, keep an eye on them. Understood. As dusk fell, darkness completely consumed the last remnants of light. Wu Jian put down the radio, revealing a cold smile on his face. Old Gu, with military orders in place, I can only let you down. He turned to Zhou Shangfei beside him and coldly instructed, send the order down, have everyone get ready. The prey will arrive soon. Yes. Chapter 166. The mantis stalks the cicada, while the Qin wind waits behind time passed second by second. The soldiers of the 4th Company hidden nearby kept their eyes fixed ahead, always waiting for their target to appear. Li Jiejun was crouched in a patch of grass, taking a shooting stance with slight tremors in his hands from excitement. This was his first time participating in a real combat exercise, and it felt much more exhilarating than playing live-action CS. Moreover, he was the only one left alive from the 4th squad of the new recruits, which made him feel like he had a savior's mission. Li Jiejun licked his lips, his eyes shining with excitement. When he encounters the squad leader later, should he aim for his head, or his head, or his head? Forget it, just aim for the head. Let him look so handsome and turn him into a mess. Ha ha ha, just thinking about it is thrilling. Old Qi, your brother Sheng will come to avenge you soon. At that moment, The bushes in the distance rustled a couple of times, and suddenly figures emerged. They are coming, they are coming. Li Jiejun immediately excitedly aimed in that direction, his finger resting on the trigger. Not just him, but everyone ambushed around also pointed their guns toward that spot. However, they were still too far away and had to wait for them to come closer. Wu Jian, holding the night vision binoculars, felt just as excited as the others. The sharpshooters of the 4th Company had always been labeled as the perennial second place in the regiment, simply because the Steel Blade Company always had the upper hand. In the past, whenever there was a confrontation, the 4th Company would basically face complete defeat. Although he had a good relationship with Gujiong privately, he always wanted to win thoroughly at least once. Thus, this time, the 4th Company had to win convincingly and decisively. Although conducting a sneak attack was rather dishonorable, the thrill was undeniably exhilarating. In the past, Wu Jian had always looked down on those who enjoyed scheming behind others' backs. He felt that such tactical maneuvers were underhanded and lacked integrity. But at this moment, he could only say one thing. It turns out that being sneaky feels so good. Indeed, once a person loses their conscience, their perspective opens up entirely. As the opponent was about to enter the encirclement, Wu Jian slowly brought the walkie-talkie to his mouth, ready to issue commands at any moment. Just as he was silently counting down in his mind, the Steel Knife Company suddenly stopped in their tracks. Then, for some unknown reason, they abruptly ran in the completely opposite direction. What the hell is going on? Watching the cooked duck fly away, Wu Jian immediately felt a bit anxious. However, he did not want to startle the enemy or order a chase. Instead, he chose to remain still. He believed that with Gujiong's straightforward mindset, he would definitely not see any flaws. Moreover, under the cover of night, his ambush should not be discovered. With a hint of suspicion, Wu Jian picked up the walkie-talkie and instructed Zhou Shangfei to quickly investigate the situation. Shortly after, Zhou Shangfei returned quietly and provided feedback on what he had observed. Company commander, it seems like they are meeting up with another team. I didn't dare to get too close. They have lookouts. Hearing this news, Wu Jian almost burst out laughing. From intelligence shared by other companies, he already knew that the Steel Knife Company had split into 2 teams. Currently, this team of over 40 was led by Gujiong, while the other team appeared to be led by a new recruit named Qin Feng. Although he was unclear about Gujiong's reasoning and how he dared to delegate command to a rookie, this was excellent news for him, because this way, they could completely take down the Steel Knife Company. Old 4, what's the situation on your side? Why is there no movement? At that moment, the voice of the 8 Company commander suddenly came through the walkie-talkie. This trap was actually a chain trap. The 8 Company commander was lying in ambush about 500 to 600 meters behind with 2 platoons. The purpose of this was naturally to prevent any fish from slipping through the net once the fighting started. Furthermore, if the Steel Knife Company's firepower was too fierce and they retaliated strongly, the 8 Company could immediately come to provide support. Old 8, I have good news. The 2 teams on the other side just completed their meeting. Upon hearing this, the 8 Company commander was immediately overjoyed. What are we waiting for? Hurry up and notify everyone to surround them from all sides. Let's take them all down, so we can head back early and get some rest. Wu Jian smiled meaningfully. Hey, Old 8, leave this little matter to us. There's no need to call them all the way over here. The 8 Company commander instantly understood. The more people involved in the credit, the less valuable it became. If he called the other companies over, how would he and Wu Jian show off in front of the commander? All right, I'll follow your arrangement. As soon as I hear your gunfire, I'll bring my men to surround them. Okay, after we finish, I'll treat you to drinks and a late-night snack. Skip the drinks, Old 8. I only love the secret mini burgers. Ha ha ha, no problem. Meanwhile, in the woods, Qin Feng and Gujiong's troops had completed their meeting. Liu Yong glanced at the opposite side and immediately asked in surprise, why are there nearly 20 fewer people? Didn't we help draw them away? Well, later on. We tried to counterattack, but almost got surrounded, so. Tang Lei glanced at Gujiong, who immediately turned his head away, pretending to pick at his fingers. Seeing this, Qin Feng understood instantly. The squad leader wanted to be a real man for 5 seconds, but it didn't work out. The other side had already taken a couple of hits and knew that the Steel Knife Company liked to play guerrilla tactics, so they all huddled together. Trying to use the same strategy as before was clearly not going to work now. However, Qin Feng didn't want to delve deeper into this topic. Warfare is like that. There are too many unknowns. Even Qin Feng himself wasn't confident that he could succeed every time. By the way, Qin Feng, I haven't asked you yet. Why did you suddenly call us back? Gujiong asked, somewhat puzzled. Didn't we agree to meet in the XXX area? Why did we suddenly change the location? Qin Feng shook his head. I don't know why, but I just feel something isn't right. What's wrong? The 4th squad leader. Gujiong paused, then looked at him seriously. Are you suspecting that the 4th squad leader might suddenly change his mind and set a trap for us? Qin Feng stroked his chin and said seriously. If it were me, I wouldn't set an ambush at the destination. I'd choose to ambush on the way. Hearing this, Gujiong was taken aback. Are you saying that the road ahead has already been set up as an ambush by those scoundrels? As soon as we walk past, we'll be targeted? Gu Jiong got so agitated that he started cursing. He considered Wu Jian a brother, so he never thought such a thing could happen. After all, he himself was already in such a dire situation. That guy wouldn't he take the opportunity to kick him while he was down, right? Qin Feng said solemnly. I can't be sure. It's just a hypothesis. From the very beginning, I didn't have much hope for the 4th and 8th squad leaders. Because this involves probabilities. We can't risk the lives of our soldiers, nor can we hand over the initiative to the enemy. Moreover,